sedimentation, and it comes into a natural planting, trees, water, and that will basically upload some of the pollutants and treat it, and the plant will actually take some of that pollutant.
So the plant leaches the contaminants
Exactly.
out of the soil, the bad stuff out of the ground.
Correct. And it's a very, very natural process going through that route versus putting in any kind of actual treatment process. And it's good for developing an ecosystem.
So the plants act like a filter then?
That's correct.
The park at 54th and Avalon, it will have a pocket park for exercising and walking. The wetlands over there will be much bigger, and obviously gets bigger in the rainy season when the water level rises.
That's correct.
And it's going to have some bridges over it so people can actually be in the wetlands and really look in the water and see the birds nesting and that sort of thing. And I think there's going to be space for community groups. We're going to have we have a historic building over there already,
yes,
and we're going to keep that. And the Rail Museum, because it used to be the historic location for servicing the Red Car line. So there's going to be a lot of fun things to do there. I wanted to be here on the other side of the park to see the nesting islands, and as you can see we have two, and they were designed to give the birds a place to reproduce and for the public to be able to watch and observe, but at a safe distance, so we could really see wildlife as they are. And it's really fully grown, and you can see how beautiful it is now. It looks like it's been here forever, which is amazing because it's less than 3 years old.
That's correct. That's very correct. And you see the full cycle with the birds, with the insect, with all the different animals out here. Yeah, correct.
Yeah, I think we were talking about the pollywogs a minute ago, and pollywogs' life cycle, and that they evolve into frogs. And there's a lot of dragonflies out today.
That definitely is.
And some very loud crows. So things are busy over here.
What a gem in the city. I mean, this is one of the very, very highlight of what park should be in the future. I think that's exactly what it is. It really transformed this community.
I'm glad you guys are excited about it.
Yes, definitely.
On the corner of Central and Adams at 1025 East Adams Boulevard, an impressive new mixed-use development with affordable housing units and additional retail space is one of several projects that have brought improvement and development to Central Avenue. Council District 9 has partnered with Fresh and Easy Neighborhood Market at this location to bring wholesome foods to an area that is in great need of grocery outlets and quality food options. Superior Grocers, located at 20th and Central Avenue, is another full-scale market serving this community. It provides the anchor for a $27.5 million mixed-use development called Central Village, 45,000 square feet of retail space, and 85 affordable housing apartments. East 43rd and Central Avenue is home to the 9,000 square foot environmentally friendly Constituent Services Center. This $14.7 million complex serves as a neighborhood city hall and my field office. It's also been the first green roof on any municipal building in Los Angeles. An assortment of water-tolerant vegetation adorns the roof park, which provides an urban sanctuary for residents, constituents, and staff. This complex has a host of modern green features such as state-of-the-art solar panels and a rainwater collection system. This building represents another example of the progressive effort to revitalize Central Avenue. On June 23, 2010, we celebrated along with developer Tom Saffron and Associates the opening of the new affordable Rittenhouse Square located at 33rd Street and Central Avenue. The Rittenhouse Square features 100 one-bedroom units, amenity-rich common areas, and 4,000 square feet of retail space. The complex is constructed to cultivate activities between occupants and the community and offers extraordinary enhancements for its senior residents. Cheryl Lowers, resident manager, was kind enough to take our camera on a tour of the interior of this beautiful facility.
Well, hello. My name is Cheryl Lowers, and I'm the resident manager for Rittenhouse Square. Come on in. I'd love to show you around. Welcome to our Rittenhouse Square lobby area. You'll notice a piece of artwork that was here before our building was built. This was actually a piece from the building before. We have a beautiful mobile that represents Central Avenue Jazz. This is a typical one-bedroom apartment. All of our
council meeting. Ladies and gentlemen, can we please have quiet in the chambers? Sergeant Arms, we need quiet in the chambers. Thank you. All right, thank you. Welcome to council chambers. This is our meeting for Wednesday, November 17th, city council meeting. We meet 3 times a week, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Fridays. All meetings are open to the public. For those who cannot make it to City Hall, meetings are televised via cable channel 35 or can be viewed by visiting our website, www.lacity.org. Audio of our meetings available on council phone by dialing 213-621-CITY, C-I-T-Y. I am Council Member Dennis Zine. We do have a quorum. And if you are here to speak on an item, please fill out a card prior to that item being called. Again, if you're here to speak on an item or in our remote Van Nuys or San Pedro facilities, please fill out a card before that item is called for discussion. We now have a quorum. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Alarcon, Cardenas, Hahn, Weezer, Koretz, Krikorian, Labange, Parks, Perry, Reyes, Rosendahl, Smith, Wesson, Zine, Garcetti, 10 members present and a quorum, Mr. President.
Very well. First item, please.
Approval of the minutes.
Ms. Perry, seconded by Mr. Rosendahl.
Commendatory resolutions for approval.
Mr. Labange, seconded by Mr. Alarcon.
Mr. President, items 1 through 15 are items noticed for a public hearing. There has been a request to continue item 12 to 11/24.
Without opposition, 12 will be continued to November 24th. Specials 1 through 15, colleagues. 1 through 15. Anyone have specials? Specials 1 through 15 on the agenda.
Mr. President, you do have a card in for item number 12.
Number 12. It's continued to 11/24, Mr. Clerk.
Pardon me, sir.
So we're going to continue number 12 to 11/24. So 1 through 15. See no one calling anything special, 1 through 15. Mr. Rosendahl, what about 1 through 15, Mr. Rosendahl? You're getting ahead of us. Did you say 15 or 16?
15.
Say that again?
16.
Okay, well, we're not there yet. Thank you, Mr. Rosendahl. 1 through 15. Seeing none. Open the roll. Close the roll. What, sir? Is someone calling? Pardon me?
President, there's a speaker's card in form by the Department of Building and Safety.
All right, so 11. So 1 through 15, 11 they're special, 12 is continued. Remaining items, open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
Very well. Next items, please.
Mr. President, items 16 through 24 are items for which public hearings have been held. There is a request to continue item number 24 till December 7th. Furthermore, item 16 is a commission appointment. Would you like to hold that on the desk?
Hold 16, and Mr. Rosendahl wants to call that special. 24 without opposition will be continued to December 7th. 18 and 19 I show is closed. Mr. City Attorney?
No.
Not closed? Okay. We will not close those. So 16 we're going to hold. 24 we're going to continue. Remaining items 17 through 23. On those items, open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
Next item, please.
Mr. President, items 25 through 31 are items for which public hearings have not been held. 10 votes are required for consideration.
Mr. Chair, can
Ms. Perry.
may I take my request that 29 be taken out of order?
29?
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you. We have
welcome.
some people here and they're interns and
Okay,
I
we'll
need to
do the
get them in and out.
commissioner. We'll do the commissioner, we'll do 29. So we're going to do the commissioner, then we'll do 29. All right, so 25 through 31. Any cards?
If I could call
Hold on, Mr.
25 special.
Hold on, Mr. Koretz, hold a second. Any cards? No cards. Public hearing was held, and there's no cards. Mr. Koretz?
25 special, please.
Number 25 special.
Hey, pardon me.
For Mr. Koretz, and I see that someone's saying there's a card on file, but there was public hearing on the items 25 through 31.
Sir.
There was not.
Sir, we have cards on item number 26, 29, and 30.
Okay, so 26, 29, 30 we will call special for cards.
We got a card on 28, I'm sorry.
Any other specials?
One additional card on item 28, sir.
Wait a second. Number 28? A card on 28?
No, I need to call.
Pardon me?
We have speakers, but we've run out of speakers.
Okay, we have been informed we've run out of speaker cards, but we have speakers.
Marco?
So we will call 26, 28, 29, 30, 25, special. Any others, colleagues? Any other speakers? Open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Next items, please.
Mr. President, items 32 through 35 are items scheduled for closed session. Would you like to hold those on the desk?
I've been informed that we can vote on those now. It's not necessary to keep them closed. Correct, City Attorney?
If no council member wants to discuss these matters in closed session, they can be approved in open session.
Anyone have any questions on 32 through 35, colleagues?
You have to vote on them individually.
I should read them.
Yeah, he has to read them into the record.
Okay. You want to do that now? All right, so 32 through 35, we're going to be voting those individually. Mr. Clerk, start with 32, please.
Very good, sir. Item 32, there is a recommendation for settlement in the amount of $142,205 in the case entitled Michael Schneider versus City of Los Angeles. Item 33, there is a recommendation for settlement in the amount of $164,073.65 in the case entitled Clyde Carnes versus City of Los Angeles. Item 34, there is a recommendation for settlement in the amount of $183,856.98 plus a life pension benefit estimated at $195,951.12 in the case entitled Joseph Mosley versus City of Los Angeles. And in item 35, there is a recommendation for settlement for the following amounts in the case entitled Domingo Lavelle versus City of Los Angeles. 70% permanent disability in the amount of $98,095, payable at the weekly rate of $230 plus future medical care and life pension thereafter at a weekly sum of $38.65, estimated at $37,222.29. 32% permanent disability in the amount of $23,800, payable at the weekly rate of $170 plus medical care. 15% permanent disability in the amount of $13,050, payable at the weekly rate of $200 plus future medical care, and 3% permanent disability in the amount of $2,070, payable at the weekly rate of $230 plus future medical care.
And those are work comp 32 through 35?
Yes, sir.
Okay. On item 32, open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
You don't want to take them all?
I understand we have to take individual votes.
12 ayes.
Mr. City Attorney, we can do it in a package? I was told we have to do it individually, so let's do it in a package. So 33, 34, 35. On 33, 34, 35, open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
All right. Next items, please. Now up to 36. That'll be 10:15. So there are specials at number 36. We'll come back to that. Mr. Clerk, you want to go 37? All right, so 36 through 39 are a special meeting? We don't want to do specials now. I'm just saying 36 through 39 is special, so we can move those aside for the right now. Okay,
Let's
so
hold them on
then we'll go to 40?
We can't, that would be agendized under the second special meeting to convene at 12:45. Perhaps we should go to the continuation agenda, sir.
Okay.
On the continuation agenda, items 41 through 45 are items for which public hearings have not been held. 10 votes are required for consideration.
Okay, 41 through 45. Any specials, colleagues? 44 special for Mr. Garcetti.
41 for me.
41 special for Ms. Hahn.
Okay.
Any other specials, colleagues? 41 through 45. Cards?
45 for Mr. Cardenas.
45. Ms. Hahn? 43 is on hold. Anyone on 42?
You got a card on 40.
No, we're going to hold those. We're going to hold those. That's a special meeting. So we have 42. Any cards?
42 is so lost.
42 is special. So 42 is special. So 41, 42, 43, 44, and 45 are all going to be called special. 43 also.
Yes.
Card. So the 41 through 45, all specials. Next item, Mr. Clerk.
Mr. President, that takes council back to items called special or public comment on items not on council's agenda.
Okay, we'll do public comment in a moment. We have a commissioner that is up for confirmation, number 16, Mr. Rosendahl. Commissioner, will you please?
Mr. President,
I should say nominee.
for item
Have a seat,
16,
please.
a committee report has been submitted to council and distributed for its consideration.
Mr. Rosendahl.
Thank you. No, please, Madam Chair.
Ms. Hahn.
Of course.
Excuse me, no one pushed the button?
Thank you.
All you got to do is push the little button. I'll know your name's up there.
Thank you. You should know by now that I'm a chair of this committee. I have been for many years.
Yes, you have been. Done a fine job, too.
Good morning, Mr. Height. We're glad you're here. We had you in our Trade, Commerce, and Tourism Committee earlier this morning. You're been slated to fill a vacancy at our Airport Commission. And you might want to talk a little bit to the rest of the council and share some of the things that you shared with us in committee this morning. We talked about our priorities on the City Council, which are modernizing that airport. We want to finish the Tom Bradley International Terminal. We want to finish modernizing the concessions so that the passenger experience is better. We talked a little bit about safety, and you bring an interesting background by having been involved in litigating a lot of the Boeing issues with crashes. And we asked you, what does that perspective bring in terms of airline safety at our airport, and how important safety is, number one. And security is a big issue at LAX, and we know the mayor is looking to form a Blue Ribbon Commission looking at the security at the airport. So we have a lot of big issues facing us at that airport. Modernization, safety, security. Maybe you can share a little bit about why you want to do this. What about your background and your perspective do you think will be important as we move forward? And maybe what are some of the challenges that you see us all facing as we move forward with those issues at LAX and our other airports, Ontario and Van Nuys?
Well, thank you very much. I can say just briefly that during my career, which was primarily in practicing law, I spent about 10 years doing air crash work, and mainly for the Boeing Company, and learned a lot about aircraft safety and how airplanes work in the process of that. I also spent a lot of time handling matters for another company, Lockheed, in that area. And then during the Carter administration, I headed the office at the Department of State, which was in charge of worldwide negotiations of landing rights, bilateral agreements around the world. So I long had a love affair with aviation, and when this came along, I didn't seek it, but when it came sort of out of the blue, I was very much interested in it. And as you say, from what I can tell, the Airport Commission has a very full agenda. And of course, safety has to be item number one, but there are a number of issues of getting people in a reasonably attractive way into and out of the airport that are very high on the agenda down there as well. And so I look forward, if I'm confirmed, to working on these issues in a very pragmatic way.
Thank you. What do you think are some of our biggest challenges that we're going to face and things that we should be paying attention to at the airport?
Well, to the degree I understand what's going on down there, I think the first thing is finishing the modernization of the Bradley Terminal. Then there are a number of other additional matters, such as making it easier and more attractive for passengers to get in and out. By the time there are a whole series of issues that are sort of lurking right down the road, parking and access via people mover or rapid transit to the airport area. So there's no lack of issues, and indeed, as I understand it, the airport has not been seriously remodeled since the early 80s. And so it is a little behind the times in its appearance and the ease of getting in and out, and that needs to be dealt with as well.
Thank you very much. And again, as I said, we want you also to pay attention to every RFP that is released from the airport, every contract that is awarded. We want to make sure things are fair, they're honest, they're transparent, and that there's a very accountable process out there that we award these things in the highest and best manner.
And as I told you earlier, I'm acutely aware of that, and the airport is going to spend $10 or $15 billion in the next few years, and with that much money, it's important that that all of the contracts be carefully let and carefully scrutinized.
Thank you, and colleagues, I'm happy to support this appointment by the mayor to the Airport Commission. I hope we have a unanimous vote this morning.
Mr. Rosendahl.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning.
Good morning.
It's good to have a neighbor from Mar Vista join that airport commission, because it's only about 15, 20 minutes away from our home is that airport, and we actually experience it not in the roughest of ways, but the planes do fly over our neighborhood, but they're up thousands of feet at that particular point, so we're very aware of it. Ms. Hahn pretty well covered the landscape of the issues, but I think the public needs to appreciate that the only way we get regionalism in Southern California, a megalopolis of 25 million people, is to modernize LAX so it's no longer the cheapest takeoff and landing airport in the United States, and that's why American, United, and Delta don't do nonstop, direct, frequent, and discounted flights out of Ontario, though there is a market for it. Actually, the big airlines don't care how long it takes you to get to the gate, as long as you get to the gate at LAX. So modernization is key for regionalism, because once the bottom line folks see that it's incented to go to Ontario, they'll start to have nonstop, direct, frequent, and discounted flights. People from Anaheim would rather go to Ontario. People from the Inland Empire would rather go to Ontario. We don't need to put everything in LAX, because it is the #1 destination point in the world due to the megalopolis we're part of. So we'll always be a robust airport, and we need to modernize this airport. So your leadership on that will be tremendous. And I look forward to you looking at ways in which we can incent the airlines to go to Ontario. Are you up for that task?
I am. I understand that point quite clearly.
And the other issues that you are going to be focusing on, I know, will include that modernization. And I look forward to a report back on some of those other projects. As you know, the Green Line into the airport, the People Mover, the Consolidated Rental, the Midfield Terminal, as well as the Bradley Terminal. And your leadership on that will be greatly appreciated.
Thank you very much. I have a lot to learn about those issues, but I'll proceed as quickly as I can.
Yeah. And thank you very much for stepping up as a citizen to the plate at this point in your life. We're going to look forward to your wisdom, your experience in helping us move the airport. And colleagues, I ask for unanimous vote on this. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Rosendahl. Mr. LaBonge?
Thank you very much. I wasn't able to join in committee, but I had a great meeting. Tremendous asset that you have in your experience in the field of aviation. Noise is a big issue. If there's anything that can be done to have that up as an attention to see technology improve, I strongly believe in the Green Line into the airport, and I really believe the Green Line should be a high-speed rail through the Inland Empire. We may have a little difference of opinion there. Whatever it is, modernize it, make it safe, deal with the noise, and work hard for the people of Los Angeles. Thank you for your service. I call for an aye vote.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Cardenas.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I'd just like to thank you on behalf of the people of Los Angeles for your volunteerism. It's a quasi full-time job to be an airport commissioner, so we really appreciate you, your willingness to give up so much of your time to public service on this particular commission. Looking at your experience and your resume, I think that you're an incredibly qualified individual for this responsibility, and I just wanted to share with you some of the concerns that we have out there in the San Fernando Valley about the busiest general aviation airport in the world, and people argue that it might be the number one or number two. Either way, it's very busy, very important airport. The Van Nuys Airport is under LAWA's jurisdiction, as well as LAX, as well as Ontario, and something going on in Palmdale as well. But at the same time, I think it's important for us to understand that for us to have one of the busiest general aviation airports in the world, and then for that airport constantly every year to be talked about by the department, that it doesn't sustain itself, that it's constantly having to be fed, and that it just doesn't sustain itself, I think is just ridiculous. And what I'm hoping that not only the commission but the staff would do is do several things. First and foremost, make sure that we set right its viability. Secondly, I think with a viable airport and that reconditioning of that airport, what we'll end up doing is we'll end up being able to communicate and work with the surrounding community better, because one of the biggest complaints that you get out of any airport, and Van Nuys Airport is no exception, is the noise. And the fact of the matter is, I think that the airport, if it's healthy financially, I think it can actually legally and appropriately mitigate things and work with the community and have literally enough staff to go ahead and be a good neighbor. Right now, I think that it's being treated as a stepchild, and one of the main reasons that it's being treated that way is because LAWA staff, which is located at the LAX airport, keeps complaining that it is an airport that doesn't maintain itself financially. So if you can make sure that the commission and the staff work harder on that, I would really appreciate it on behalf of the people of Los Angeles, on behalf of the people of the San Fernando Valley, and certainly the people who use the airport and the people who live around it. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
That completes comments from council members. We're now up for a vote. Open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Thank you. Congratulations, Commissioner. There's a request by number 29. 29 for Ms. Perry.
We have a long public comment period. We should really do that.
Hey, fine, how are you?
We have a good group behind us.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you, thanks, Mr. Chair, and I'd like to call, this is Enrique Saldivar, and I think many of you know him, the Bureau of Sanitation and Community Development Department Partnership Program. And this is going to be very quick. We have a program we just wanted to mention, which is a direct result of the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act, or ARRA as you know it. And Bureau of Sanitation and CDD made a partnership with 39 part-time employees. Enrique led the effort along with Richard Benbow from CDD. Rhonda Dowdy, Senior Program Administrator, was instrumental in ensuring that program goals were met. She encouraged employees to get involved and optimize communications regarding the program by creating a bi-monthly newsletter. Several mentees were also instrumental in designing a communication newsletter featuring each division and the mentees' valuable contributions to the Bureau of Sanitation family in an effort to ensure newly hired employees gained valuable experiences. Each were assigned a mentor to foster excellent communication between the mentor and mentee. Various tools and mechanisms were implemented. 3- and 6-month evaluations were established for mentor and mentee. Enrique Zaldivar, the Bureau's executive director, showed genuine interest in the mentors, as did Richard Benbow, by being engaged with them on a daily basis and giving them words of leadership, mentorship, and encouraged. Now, I'm so proud and pleased that all 39 of our part-time employees and their mentors finished this program. The mentors provided the time and resources necessary for these employees to currently make the program a triple win for the employees, the Bureau, and the Community Development Department, and the community overall. So I just wanted to thank Enrique Saldivar, Richard Benbow, and Robert Sines, and Mr. Chair, if there are questions on the program, Mr. Saldivar is here and available to answer them. If there are no questions, if there are no speakers in the queue, I am willing to just present them with their certs and let them go on their merry way back to work. All right. Which is what we all want. Thank you. Thank you. We have some certificates which I will present to them in the back. Are there any speakers in the queue?
There is Mr. Labange.
I just can't say enough of thank you to the Bureau of Sanitation. One day, maybe something else, you make a difference every day you're in a neighborhood. And then having a mentoring program, that shows the commitment of those who work there to share with others. I hope all these young people get an opportunity to go to the Tom Bradley Tower before they leave City Hall. That's one extra request. And Enrique, thank you for your leadership. Go Sanitation.
Okay.
Ms. Perry, there is a card from Dr. Williams also, Dr. Clyde Williams.
Okay.
We can hear from him.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Dr. Williams?
All right. I'll see you in the back. All right. Wait for me. Meet me in the back and I'll take a group photo.
We'll go around the back.
Yeah, meet you. You're welcome. I'll meet you in the back room. And Mr. Chair, I have one more thing to do after Dr. Williams is done with this.
Okay.
Thank you.
Dr. Williams?
I'll be very short. Dr. Clyde Williams, El Sereno, we need more mentoring, and we need more money for the mentoring through Board of Public Works, through the Department of Transportation, and others. So we need it more. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Perry?
Did you want to open the roll on this?
Open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Thank you. And then just a quick thing. Peter Grady and Mark Nagel from Chrysler could come up to the podium. Okay, great.
Is that an item on the agenda for a vote?
No,
Or some?
I'm pulling a Tom Labange. Is that okay?
Okay, now I just want to know if there's an item I'm supposed to call or not.
No. I'm just doing a Tom Labange move here. That's all.
All right, you got the mic. Go ahead.
Yeah, I got the mic, so,
I got the mic, too.
Yeah, but, okay. I'm pro tem, your assistant pro tem. Okay, thank you. I just wanted to publicly welcome Peter Grady and Mark Nagel from Chrysler to Los Angeles on Figueroa Street in the 9th District. The Chrysler Group is opening a new dealership at 2025 South Figueroa in Council District 9, and they had an extraordinary grand opening last night. The dealership will include a Fiat store, which is the first Fiat store to enter the United States market in 27 years, and we have it right here in downtown Los Angeles. As many of you know, the auto show is happening right now at the Los Angeles Convention Center, and it is wonderful to have all of the synergy around the automobile industry here in downtown Los Angeles. It's a critical part of our economy. In downtown alone, there are 8 dealerships that represent over $290 million a year in revenue and employ over 800 people. This new Chrysler dealership is strategically located on Auto Row, joining 9 existing dealerships, including Audi, Chevy, Cadillac, Honda, Mercedes, Nissan, Porsche, Toyota, and Volkswagen. So I'm pleased to welcome and celebrate them, and I'm pleased that they've located in downtown Los Angeles. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Perry. Congratulations. No vote required, not on the agenda, but thank you. Okay, Mr. Clerk, now we're going to do public comment. And we will take the public comment from the folks that are here and in our Van Nuys and San Pedro offices. Dr. Williams, public comment time.
Dr. Clyde Williams, El Sereno. Yesterday we had a meeting in El Sereno, 1 hour, regarding traffic and proposed projects for a call for projects by the Caltrans
Our problem is that it's due in 2 weeks. The problem there is that it was notified to the city in September, but none of the neighborhood councils had received any information regarding it. Highway Safety Improvement Program. Just some statistics. 3 CDs, 4, 5, and 7, received made half of the applications for the projects that were presented. 3 districts, 3, 12, and 14, had none. So we need to have more neighborhood council participation so that we can bring the numbers up. Thank you.
Eva Cruz. Eva Cruz.
¿Está lista? Buenos días. Good morning. Mi nombre es Eva Cruz. My name is Eva Cruz. Vengo a hablar por mi niño que tiene discapacidad de autismo. I come to talk about my son. He has a disability. He suffers of autism. Tiene 12 años y todavía en la escuela no recibe ayuda tecnológica. He's 12 years old and he's not receiving any kind of technological support at the school. No sabe usar la computadora, no sabe leer ni escribir. He doesn't know how to use a computer. He doesn't know how to read or write. Él tiene la capacidad, pero no tiene la ayuda. He has the ability, but he doesn't have the help. He ido a hablar con los directores, no nos hacen caso. I spoke to the principal and they don't pay attention. La maestra tampoco, por supuesto. The teacher, of course, doesn't pay attention either. Y vengo aquí a buscar ayuda para mi niño. I come here to look for help for my son. Y vengo a pedir ayuda específicamente también a José Huizar, que se acaba de mover. I come especially to request help from Mr. Huizar. He has moved from his chair. Mi concejal y he's my council member. Espero ayuda para él. Él tiene la capacidad, yo sé. Yeah. I hope I can get help for him. He has the ability. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Mr. Garcetti?
Nosotros encontraremos, señor Huizar, para usted. Un momentito. Encontraremos, señor Huizar, para usted.
Mr. Cardenas?
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that, thank you, Mr. Garcetti. I was going to say the same thing, but I'll say it in English for everybody to understand. WISAR staff will be attending to the lady in just a few minutes.
All right, thank you. Gracias. Duke Russell. Duke Russell.
Good morning, council members. My name is Duke Russell. I am in support of the letter by Councilman Tom LaBonge for a sports field at Los Angeles City College. You all have copies. In 2002, the Los Angeles Community College's Board of Trustees approved construction of a huge public golf driving range at LACC. Later, a beautiful Snyder Field for football, soccer, and track was destroyed, including the 21-row stadium and the Art Deco gym. Many of us pleaded with the trustees not to build the golf range. On April 14, 2002, the trustees bought out the 35-year lease for $24,625,000. The golf range was built on a previous sports field, as Tom LaBonge's letter states. Other district community colleges have 2 fields. LACC now has only 1 field, which is on the roof of a parking structure. It does not allow football or baseball. 20 high schools and thousands of students are dependent on LACC for sports and fields. The Board of Trustees is wrong again. The vacant land needs to become a field of dreams for this city. It will keep kids out of gangs and jail. President Barack Obama played college basketball. It helped him become elected. I'm very sure that the President would want to see a field on LACC property. Thank you very much for listening. Please, let's do something beautiful and great for the city of Los Angeles and thousands of students.
Thank you. Let's go to the Van Nuys area, City Hall. Frank Sheftel, Van Nuys City Hall.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Councilman. It's great to be here. I always love coming down and talking with you. You know, I was here yesterday for 6 hours listening to all the comments and all the debate going back and forth on the different agenda items. Specifically, a lot of time was spent on the items that had to do with the election coming in March and what we were going to put on the ballot, and it just seemed like a lot of merry-go-round. I hope you guys sometimes go home at night and watch these proceedings, because I know they replay on Channel 35. You know, if you don't, you should go, and maybe you might change the way you do business a little bit, because it seems like you repeat yourselves a lot over and over again on what's going on. LA City College, I support that absolutely. I remember that debacle with the golf range and how they didn't net it properly and the balls were flying everywhere. And but oh my gosh, $24 million to buy out that lease. You know, no wonder we're in bankruptcy or practically bankrupt from all different angles and all different departments of California, not only in our city here. I'm also concerned because I think constituent services are failing a lot. I think, you know, you just heard this other woman waiting for Councilman Huizar to come out and talk with her. You know, sometimes we come here because we're in a situation where we need our council people's help. And I've come here many times seeking the help of my council person, Tom LaBonge. And, you know, sometimes I get a deaf ear. Tom's always great about talking about the history and everything, but we need to remember there are constituents out there, and we may not always agree with them, but we have an obligation as a public service or public servant to be able to help them when they come to us in a situation. I hope that his office will get back to me. I'm still waiting for his land use guy, Doug, to call me back, but I would appreciate some help. And in the meantime, I did file papers to run for city council because, you know, I see the way you guys do stuff, and I think sometimes there's a better way to do it, and sometimes you need somebody from fresh perspective to come in and show you. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. LaBonge, did you have a comment?
No, I just was going to say anyone can call. I have very good hearing, and I hear everybody, and I do try to help everybody. But also, Mr. Zion, there's a land use case involved in this, so he could proceed to the process that he has to go through.
Okay,
thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. LaBonge. Daniel Garcia. Daniel Garcia.
Good morning, Council. I brought two clients from my center, which is Eva Cruz and Maria Sotelo. I want to speak on behalf of them because there's an additional thing that you must know. And the LA Unified District violation of the law of IDEA is a violation of the law that says that every child who has a disability must be considered assisted technology. Assisted technology it can be a computer with communication devices, with touch screen, with anything that can be provided. It can be also for people who are blind, who can use the computer. It can be also for other people, and they have the right to say that they are in violation of the law. I want the city council to please help them out, and help them out now. Not tomorrow, but now. Thank you very much.
President,
Mr. Labange.
could I ask the clerk's office to assist me with an interpreter? This gentleman does testify before our Arts, Parks, Health, and Aging Committee on issues of disability and others, and they do provide signage. Could you ask some help from your office, please? Come on.
Thank you. Walter Bechtel.
I'll leave this with you. We're good.
Good morning. I didn't know if I was going to pass or not. You know, I think we need different stickers. These things are falling off. Why can't we stick with the ones that we had before? There's nothing wrong with them. You have the dies made for them already. All you got to do is use the dies and print on the stuff. These things suck. But I don't know. I could harp on about the situation at the Ford Hotel. You guys had to come in here a couple of days ago or last week, and you try to convince everybody you do care about the people. Gosh darn it. Well, why don't you add an addendum to that, except for the people at the Ford Hotel who were relocated from the hotel, all their rents are tripled or doubled. That isn't the case. If you cared, you wouldn't try to find legal loopholes to bypass your own rent stabilization. Rent stabilization was put in there so people would have enough money to get by, and the rent that they paid wouldn't be increased dramatically like what you've done to us there. But, quote, you care, unquote, huh? Well, excuse me. I don't know what you mean by the word care, but that doesn't seem to be the case as far as we're concerned. And most of us were moved to places where we didn't even have any furniture. We had to go out and buy some furniture or find some thrown away in the back lot or something like that. So how is that comprise a comparable unit that we were supposed to be moved to? So, you know, you can't just say you care. You got to prove you care. And if you don't care and you get up here and you lie about it, the people are going to find out about it. And when it comes time for Christmas and it comes time to spend money, and the merchants ain't going to make money because people are withholding, they don't know if they're next, then they're going to realize and remember which council members are saying they care and which they don't really care at all. Thank you.
Arnold Sachs.
Thank you. Good morning. Arnold Sachs. Quite a day yesterday. Opportunity to stifle public comment by putting 13 amendments, charter amendments, on yesterday's agenda. You only get, if you're on this side of the velvet rope, you only get 5 minutes. So take your best 5 shots. It's pretty unfair, though, to do it that way. You could have separated, but it's not the City Council's manner to have some progressive discussions with the public, only the discussion about what you want to present. I'm really concerned about the discussion with the ratepayer advocate. On one hand, a couple days ago, the union organization that put a full-page article in the LA Times saying that it hadn't been vetted, it hadn't been discussed openly enough. But according to some of the material, it's been discussed over 2 years. When Austin Butner took over, he said he was going to present a plan for the ratepayer advocate 1 month after he took over as head of the department. What happened? And now we get your opportunity, your choice, or the city gets that. What happened to the ratepayer advocate in the controller's office? What happened to the ratepayer advocate in the CAO's office? What about those options? When was that discussion held? So we have on one hand the union saying it's a bad idea, rush to judgment, just like they did with the solar initiative. Except they didn't put an ad in the paper regarding that, and thankfully the public shot it down. What's that real disgusting?
Rick Nightingale. Rick Nightingale? I think Rick Nightingale might be in the Valley.
It's not a land use issue.
Okay, he's in the Valley. Rick Nightingale, good morning.
Yeah, Rick Nightingale. Yeah, the gentleman behind me, he said LaBlanche, that was not a land use thing. I don't know what he was talking about, but he couldn't get back up on the mic, but whatever. This is regarding the pensions and so forth. I couldn't believe, I read in the paper, and maybe you can make a remark if it's true or not, that 70% of the money in Los Angeles is paid to the fire department and the police department. Now, you treat these people like they're the greatest thing since cornflakes, but they wanted these jobs. I wanted to be a fireman. I couldn't back in the in the 70s because of the situation of the race and that, but that's immaterial. But they took these jobs. I'm an electrician. You know how many people get electrocuted and falling off of ladders? I mean, I've gotten nailed by 277. That's the electricity that you see up above you, and it hurts. But when 70% of the money is paid to these people through the pensions, something's wrong. And then 50% of the money up in Sacramento goes to the school boards. Now, what are the rest of the bills being paid for if this is the case? There has to be a two-tier system here. I'm sorry, it's the only way you can get around this, that if you come in, you do not step into a $70,000 job and so forth right off the bat. They want these jobs. Same as in Florida. 250 people waited in line for 2.5 days to register to be a fireman. So you're not going to have people not wanting the job. But this is the only way that you're going to turn around and do it. You're right. This is a union-run state, a union-run council. You're paid off by the unions, and that's the way it is. But if you don't turn around and get a handle on this, and that's the only way this can happen, you're missing the boat, and you're just not getting the point. You can't do anything else because you've got to cut back, and that's the only way you can. Thank you.
Maria Soto. Maria Soto. And we have an interpreter for you.
Yeah. Buenos días, mi nombre es María Soto. Good morning, my name is María Soto. Soy mamá de Nayeli Ruiz. Ella tiene un diagnóstico de autismo. I am the mother of Nayeli Ruiz. She's diagnosed with autism. Ella estudia actualmente el 6º grado en la escuela Stevenson Middle School. She goes to Stevenson Middle School and she's on the 6th grade. El problema que tenemos actualmente en la escuela es que la maestra que está ahí actualmente no tiene credenciales. The problem that we have at school is that the teacher that is working there right now doesn't have credentials. Y así fue contratada ella. That's how she was hired. Yo quiero saber por qué a los niños de clase regular sí les exigen que los maestros hayan ido a la universidad. I want to know why, if the teacher works in a regular class, they request that they go to the university. Y tengan credenciales. And they request that they have credentials if they teach a regular class. Mi hija tiene derecho a una educación apropiada. My daughter has the right to get a proper education. Y yo quiero que el señor Huizar por favor, tome en cuenta esto porque no podemos estar así. I want that Mr. Wizard please take this in consideration because we cannot keep going like this. Con mi hija tienen que abordar mucho tipo de necesidades. My daughter has a lot of different needs. Y no se está haciendo. And they are not doing what they are supposed to. That's all.
All right, thank you.
Good.
And Mr. Huizar will have a staff member assist you in that matter. Our next speaker, Victor Hugo Alegria.
Good morning, Mr. Council members. My name is Victor Alegria, and I worry about no accessible housing for the poor people. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Wayne Spindler. That's our final speaker, colleagues.
We had a meeting today about our 1601, 1605 North Vine Street, and 4 members showed up to the 5-member panel. Ms. Perry had to recuse herself, but it's coming back to the council here, and there was no recommendation out of the committee regarding this project. Many people testified quite competently, and it's clear and convincing evidence that this deal has absolutely got a lot of problems with it. The appraisals, for example, one was from the CRA, the other one was from the developer. There was about $1.4 million discrepancy, and the CRA, which is our tax dollars, that's the only reason I give a crap about this, is we paid $1.4 million more for that property than it should have been paid for. Then, another thing that's happened on the way over is the last 4 years, the CRA has held the property, but the seller, the developer, keeps collecting all the rents from the parking, from Molly's Burgers, and doesn't have to pay any property taxes because under Prop 13, when you convey your property over to the CRA, you don't have to pay any property taxes. Combined, that's a $400,000 extra gift. Now we have good news. Molly's Hamburgers is going to settle for about $1.1 million to close the hamburger stand. That paves the way now for the project to go forward. So overall, the developer is going to have the land, a net of about $4 to $5 million cash, and of course he can just walk away from it after that happens and have a nice profit, or he can go ahead and build in a lousy economy with a huge vacancy rate that will increase. The deal is a bummer, but they've got it one step closer. Just watch it and say no to it. Thank you.
That completes our public comment. Mr. Garcetti.
I know that it's not agendized, and I appreciate that was in committee today. I just wanted to say that I agree with the speaker that I think we share those same concerns. If we can't get some answers out of what happened with CRA on that, though it was characterized as paving the way, we're certainly not going to move things forward until we understand what happened there. So thank you for bringing that up again.
Thank you, Mr. Garcetti. Mr. Clerk, let's go to number 42. If we can have the CLA and the CAO take the center table on item number 42, and I think we can move this matter forward. Take it away.
Good morning, Miguel Santana, CEO. We worked early this morning to provide an additional option. It should be revised option B in front of all of you today in working with the city attorney. What this option does, it provides new employees the same protections as current employees, and it also clarifies that any changes to the retiree health portion of this item has to go before the voters. So it cannot be implemented through ordinance. So we recommend adoption of revised option B.
Very well. Any colleagues wish to comment on that? Mr. Parks.
Let me just ask a couple of questions. On that revision, is that a new benefit in the sense of medical now having to be changed by charter, or is that what we've always done?
That's what we've always done. That's why you have it before you today.
Okay. So we just want to make sure that when you say revised option, that it's standard that we've done this historically.
That it makes it consistent with, it just clarifies that it's consistent to the way we do it now.
And then the other issue is there any other cost analysis of more or less return in the city's savings? Or does it stay the same?
This does not change that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Parks. The matter is before us for a vote, colleagues. This is number 42. Open the roll.
Very good, thank you.
Well, before I do that, hold on a second. We do have a card. We do have a card. Wayne Spindler. Mr. Spindler.
Okay, there's yesterday Pat McCosker had commented about wanting something amended. I believe the C amendment was what he was concerned about. I don't know if there's any other speakers on fire and harbor and police that agree this is a good idea, but I would just say to be very wary of this because the DWP was supposed to also have a similar ballot measure with this, That was voted down. That is not going before the voters. Again, it just seems to me that they're taking this 2% only away from certain people, and these are the people we most come into contact with, and they're the highest profile people we come into contact with the city. So I say still vote no on it until they come back and there's a real shared sacrifice. And then I think if that happens, I think all of these unions would be more than willing to support such a thing at that time. But under these conditions, I don't think so. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Sachs, I don't see a card on you. Go ahead. All right, go ahead, Mr. Arnold Sachs. I understand we did run out of cards.
Thank you. Good morning, Arnold Sachs. Here's my concern. Again, it's reporting that it was $9,000 in health care costs average for workers today. This 2% is like using an eyedropper to lower the level of the ocean. Eventually, you'll get something done. This is savings in today's dollars, but over the course of the contract, over the course of the 20 years, how many pay raises do you expect to have come before council and be voted positively on? We already found out the last pay raise that you gave out occurred even though you knew the city was in a recession, and you still managed to give a 5.5 pay raise. How many dollars are you talking about saving for this eye drop of 2%? It's unbelievable.
Okay, colleagues, this matter is now 42. This is revised option B on number 42 that we're going to vote on. Open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Very well, thank you. Next item, Mr. Clerk.
Mr. President, that brings us back to item number 11 called Special for Cards.
Number 11, we have a card from Mr. David Burrow. Mr. David Burrow and the city representative on item 11.
Yes, my name is Dave Burrow. I'm a general manager for Conoco Oil. We're the owners of the service station at 236 Victory that the city is proposing to file a lien on the property. This lien and the alleged violation is a result of many missteps that we believe by city staff and by city contractors. We rebuilt the service station. We purchased the service station from Shell Oil. We were never notified of the city road work. The city's records were in arrears. They notified Shell Oil Company, and we never were notified. We went to complete our service station remodel. We found out that the city sewer connection to the service station had been cut by the city road work. We had to dig under that connection to reconnect. It was about a $70,000 job that was unknown at the time we did the work. After we completed the work, we were told we had to repave 3 city blocks. We have an estimate that was $300,000 worth of work. There were long negotiations that occurred with the city while this was going on. We had temporary use permits, as you can see by my letter. Temporary use permits were issued 5 or 6 times while these negotiations appeared or went on. On February 21st, we applied for another temporary use permit. The building department was unhappy with what was happening in the negotiations, and they refused to sign off on our temporary use permit. We were told to file a hardship appeal. We filed the hardship appeal 1 month later. It was during the time our use permit was denied, and when we filed the hardship appeal, that we were cited for being out of a temporary use permit, our occupancy. We feel it was an unfair application of the law. We were in goodwill negotiations with the city, which have since been completed, and if you can see by the letter, the temporary use permit was continually issued for about a 2-year time period.
Okay, sir, thank you. Representative from the city.
My name is Charles Karibara. I'm the representative from the Department of Building and Safety in item number 11 regarding property address 23650 West Victoria Boulevard, which is owned by the property owner, Mr. David Burrow. The department is charging that on April 9th, 2007, the property owner was found to be operating the business, which is a gas company. He was operating without a temporary certificate of occupancy, and he was cited for that reason. And also in 2004, the tenant at the property was inspected for annual inspections, which are done every year for all auto-related businesses, and he was charged for that inspection. Now, these charges kept on accumulating over the years, and the business owner failed to pay the charges that were involved. And as a result, the Department of Building and Safety is recommending that a lien be placed on this property for a total sum of $5,352.62. That comprises of a non-compliance fee of $1,075, an annual inspection fee of $300, a late charge of $2,687, accumulated interest of $1,237, and a title report fee of $53 to make up the $5,352.62. In addition, on the day the inspection was done on 4/9, 2007, the business, in fact, did not have a temporary certificate of occupancy on file. They may have had a valid temporary certificate of occupancy in 2006, and they eventually got a permanent one in 2009, but in 2007, they did not have a valid temporary certificate of occupancy, and the citation was accurate and correct. And my communication with the inspectors who performed the inspection, they insist that the citation was accurate and correct and valid, and the charges we are levying are also accurate. So the department is proposing a lien for $5,352.62.
All right, thank you. So this matter is a lien of $5,352.62 at 23650 West Victory Boulevard. On this matter, open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Very well, thank you. Next item, please.
Mr. President, that brings us to item 26, called Special for Cards.
Number 26. Steve Clare. Steve Clare.
Good morning. My name is Steve Clare. I'm a 40-year Venice resident, homeowner, and the director of the Venice Community Housing Corporation. I'm sad to be speaking here this morning to oppose the motion that our councilman is asking you to support. Councilman Rosenbaum has been a voice of compassion regarding the homeless in our community. He has supported efforts to provide housing for homeless people, including a project that the Venice Community Housing Corporation has undertaken to provide 20 units of housing for chronically homeless people with mental illness. However, this motion brought today is the wrong message to send to the people in Venice. There are two wars going on in our community. The police, parking enforcement officials, and public works personnel have initiated a campaign to drive homeless people living in their vehicles out of Venice altogether. They think they have the support of the councilman and the whole community in these efforts. They are mistaken, because there is another war going on in Venice now between those in our community who want Venice to remain an inclusive, welcoming community for all, a community that helps its neighbors, including the homeless, people who want to provide support and services these people need to survive, in housing, which is or should be a human right, and those who simply want to drive homeless people out of Venice altogether into some other neighborhood, any other neighborhood. This motion to create restricted parking to prohibit campers and RVs from parking in Venice between 2 and 6 a.m. is simply one tool to achieve that end. Councilman Rosendahl, I believe you want our existing parking and sanitation laws enforced, but your objective is not to push homeless people into some other neighborhood in your district or into the neighborhoods of your fellow councilmen and councilwomen. You can signal that clear intent by sending this motion back to committee and bringing it back with the motion to amend 8502 that allows you to create a safe parking place in Venice where homeless people living in vehicles can legally park at night. Together, these ordinances
will demonstrate your commitment to working to solve the problems of our community. This motion, standing alone, simply alienates you from the goals of those, aligns you with the goals of those who would sweep this program under the rug or literally into someone else's backyard.
Thank you. 2 minutes to make your comments. Thank you. David Ewing. David Ewing, 2 minutes on your comments, please.
Good morning, council members. My name is David Ewing. I'm a Venice resident of many years. I'm here to oppose this measure also, at least as it's presently written and at this time. I have supported an oversized vehicle ordinance, as has the group that I'm a member of, the Venice Action Alliance. However, we have always said, and Bill Rosendahl, our councilperson at the outset, agreed that this should happen simultaneously with the program for the vehicular dwellers, a vehicles to homes program. This has also been the position of the Venice Neighborhood Council, that these two things should happen together. And bringing this forward without the vehicles to homes program in place does not respect the Venice Neighborhood Council on this. This ordinance is being rushed through while the Vehicles to Homes program is languishing in limbo. It cannot go into effect until you amend Municipal Code Section 85.02, and that is not moving forward. And Bill, you know, I wish you'd just, if this is what you want to do, please own it. You know, it's not, you know, it's not the city attorney's fault, it's not this person's fault, it's not your staff's fault. If this is the order that you want things to happen in, just say you believe in it.
Thank you.
I guess that's it.
Daniel Garcia. Daniel Garcia. Daniel Garcia. You put a card in on number 26, Daniel? Did you wish to speak on number 26? Number 26, Daniel.
Hi. Okay. This is interpretation, am I right? Number 25. Transportation is an issue on people with disability. People with disability have a lot of issues with transportation. One of the issues that you must consider is that the issue on that people with disability must have transportation and including housing. Housing should be connected with transportation. Transportation should be connected with housing. In that way, senior citizens will have better way of transportation about the area. Please consider and make a consideration for people with disability about making housing area routing the area for housing. That's it. Thank you.
Sue Kaplan. Sue Kaplan. Sue Kaplan is our final speaker on number 26.
Thank you, Council. And I quote, "I don't just want to push people around, which is what we're doing, and for that I'm ashamed of Los Angeles," said Rosendahl. "I think we can do more." I believe Mr. Rosendahl wants to do more, and Mr. Rosendahl, we agree. We can all do more, and our city council can lead the way. The first step is to provide a proper place to park for those who need it. This should be our primary goal, finding safe places for these people to park and offering a chance at a safer and saner life. This ought to be the correct goal for any parking restriction program aimed at recreational vehicles. Any other objective would add more cost to the already excessive personal and taxpayer price of homelessness. I ask you to send back this ordinance, rework it so that it can accomplish its goals, and provide the fix, and not push the problem from one area to the next all over Los Angeles. You can reverse this problem by making the right choice today. Insist on placement first, restrictions second, demand nothing less than the choice that is both cheapest and smartest at the same time. How often do these adjectives intersect anymore? They can today. It's in your hands. Postpone action on the implementing ordinance until the off-street shelter programs are up and running. 8502 is amended, and these places are available for these people. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Speakers on this matter, Mr. Rosendahl.
Thank you, Mr. President. Could I please ask City Attorney Valerie Flores, Judy Reel, and Mary Decker to come up, and Sergeant Merlo from the LAPD, and Amir Sadati and Tamara Martin from LADOT. Colleagues, as you know, several months ago, we unanimously approved an oversized vehicle ordinance, giving council members wide latitude in how to create oversized parking restrictions in their districts. Before you today is an ordinance creating the umbrella ordinance, creating a process for those parking restrictions in part of CD11. As you know, this oversized vehicle ordinance is the narrowest parking restrictions we have, an oversized vehicle parking district. It restricts parking only for vehicles in excess of 22 feet in length or 84 inches in height. It only does it from 2 a.m. until 6 a.m. In Venice, where these parking restrictions are controversial, I decided to set a very high bar. The districts can be created on a block-by-block basis, and only when 2/3 of the residents have submitted signature petitions to my office. To this date, verified are 760 signatures for 40-plus blocks. At a time when DOT is short of funds and personnel, I've identified and allocated the necessary funds to implement this ordinance and to construct and install the necessary signs. As you know, because Venice does not have the same history of parking restrictions as the rest of the city, we have many people living in their cars and campers in Venice. In order to address this problem, last year we allocated money for a Vehicles to Home Safe Parking program. Last month, LASA released an RFP to administer the program and is currently working out a contract with PATH, People Assisting the Homeless. This program should be operating shortly after the OVO signs go up. For me, this represents a fair and measured, compassionate approach. Venice residents gain some small measure of control of their streets, much smaller than most neighborhoods in your districts, and at the same time, Venice and CD11 act with extraordinary compassion and extend a hand to those in need. Colleagues, the ordinance before you today does three things. One, it establishes an area in CD11 Council District prohibiting the overnight parking of oversized vehicles, specifically clarifying the intended boundary of the area. Two, it establishes a procedure for LADOT to identify those street segments in the area on which a post notice of the prohibition signs are. And three, it allows certain provisions for those residents living on what we call walk streets. They can get permits that have no physical street frontage. The ordinance also contains an emergency clause, which means this ordinance will take effect upon the date of publications. And I'd like to ask LADOT, if we approve this today, how soon will the signs be installed? On which streets will the signs be installed? And what is the process for requesting this OVO prohibition and identification of street segments? Amir?
Good morning, council members. Amir Sadati, Acting General Manager, LADOT. If the ordinance needs to be actually effective and published, so upon that publication date, and as you mentioned with the urgency clause, I think it's the same day that it gets published. A few days thereafter, we would be able to install the signs. I believe the process has a from the council, I believe it goes to the mayor for the approval. There's a 10-day period, and then once the city clerk publishes it, again through the urgency clause, the department will be ready to install signs within a few days.
Thank you. City attorneys, would you like to comment on what I just read and what the ordinance is? Please, Valerie Flores or Judy Reel.
Just a point of clarification, council member. I believe when you're describing the ordinance, you're referring to the ordinance that we've labeled Alternative B.
Alternative B, that's correct.
Yes, and you did correctly identify the provisions in Ordinance B, which were requested by LADOT. And you are correct that you are agreeing in your district to provide an additional level of input from the constituents to make sure that a supermajority of any of the residents on any streets affected by the overnight parking restrictions agree to those restrictions.
Thank you for that, too. And Sergeant Marlowe, did you want to add anything at this point?
Sir, only that Captain Peters of Pacific Division supports this motion, just as we support finding a place for the motorhomes to safely park at night.
Thank you.
Please
I want to thank Captain Peters and the LAPD.
Can he please identify himself?
Thank you very much.
Can you please identify himself?
Oh, please, Sergeant Marlowe.
For the record.
Sergeant Jeff Merlot from Pacific Division.
Thank you.
Thanks. Great. Thank you. That's it, colleagues, and I thank you for listening, and I urge a yes vote on 26 Ordinance B.
Very well, Mr. Rosenwald. You're the only one who was on the speaker queue. I see no other speakers on this matter. Colleagues, open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Thank you very much, and forthwith with this. Thank you. On option B, yes.
There's a request from Mr. Cardenas, who has another meeting to attend, to take number 45 next. Mr. Cardenas? Was that 45 you wish to have brought forward?
Thank you, yes.
Ms. Hahn called that special. I think she called it special for you.
Ms. Hahn called it special. I didn't know that.
I don't know if she called it special for herself or for you, but it was called special.
45? I called 41.
Yeah, you called
41. Did you call 45 special for Mr. Cardenas?
I called something for Tony. We've got 45.
Yeah, she called it for me. Thank you.
I called it for my friend Tony.
Thank you very much. You can go turn your back.
We just want to make sure that we recognize the proper council member, Ms. Hahn. Okay, Mr. Cardenas.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Again, just want to remind the public that basically what you're watching right now is the second reading, it's my understanding, of the items that we had yesterday. And so therefore, even though these are very, very important matters, you're probably not going to see the same amount of debate today that you saw yesterday, because it's basically the same thing. It's just that a requirement for a second reading. But why not? I get 6 minutes to open, right?
It doesn't mean you have to use them all up.
Oh, okay. Thank you for reminding me, Mr. President. But anyway, I think that this what's before us now has a lot more consistency than without item 45 as it stands today. Item 45 yesterday was half of what we're looking at today, and basically the item yesterday was amended, and I think that appropriately so, because I think it does reflect what we've been deliberating and contemplating and promising to the public that we would like to do when it comes to having a better check and balance between the proprietary department, the Department of Water and Power, the City of Los Angeles, elected officials, including the mayor and the city council, etc. So I just wanted to take a moment to remind everybody that that's what's before us. Thank you.
Mr. Garcetti. Mr. Garcetti waves that along. Okay, matters is now before us, colleagues. Open the roll. Mr. LeBon, do you have a question? Mr. LeBon, if you just push your button, I'll acknowledge you.
I apologize.
Thank you. Mr. LeBon.
Could I have staff at the table? I was over talking to our transportation officials about the last item. This issue here calls for...
And this is the issue of the council having removal authority of board members. It's the second reading of what you adopted yesterday. Yes,
We voted on this yesterday.
Yes,
This
it
is a
leaves it
yes
at
vote.
5, and...
Thank you. But there's other water power issues coming in this morning, correct?
Yes.
I want to make sure this is the one. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Ms. Hahn?
Yeah.
Yes, I know yesterday there was a little bit of confusion about this, and when Councilmember Cardenas put forward that he wanted to use the language from 9A and amend the general manager, I thought he was only taking the language that referred to the council having authority by a two-thirds vote to overturn the mayor's removal of a general manager, but clearly you were throwing in the commission process as well. You know, if this is what the will of this body is, that's fine. I personally don't think our ratepayers actually care about how commissions are appointed or removed. I think there's other issues that really matter to them more. But if it's the will of the body to move forward in this way, I'll support this. But again, let's not give up our God-given, charter-given authority now to scrutinize appointments that come before us. Every general manager, every commissioner from every commission comes before the city council. It goes through one of our committees. And we generally have been very polite. We've not really wanted to ruffle the feathers of whoever is sitting in the mayor's office, but we've kind of abdicated our role at this level to scrutinize those appointments when they come before us. And I don't think just because we're putting this before the voters, and if it does make it back into the charter, that does not absolve us of what our current responsibility is when they come before us. I know I've asked on several times for us to have some courage, some bravery, and actually push back on some of these appointments and considerations from the mayor, and no one really ever had the stomach to do that. So since I've been here 9 years, we've very rarely done that. So let's not give that up. In fact, I think with this charter amendment, it makes that process even more, important, so that we lay the foundation for an eventual removal or an eventual disagreement with the mayor as it relates to the general manager or the commissioner. We need to ask the tough questions. We need to get these commissioners on record talking about what they believe in and how they understand our priorities as it moves forward with our ratepayers. So then in the event they stray from that, they go back on their word, they end up moving towards a policy that clearly was not what they articulated when they sat here before us, then it would make sense for us to move forward on our new authority to remove them. So, council members, I can't say it enough. We have abdicated, I think, that role on many occasions. So let's get some courage. Let's get some bravery. Every commissioner that comes before here, we need to ask the tough questions and get them on record, knowing how they believe about the policies as it relates to our ratepayers.
Mr. LaBonge.
Thank you for that speech, Ms. Hahn. I'm going to vote yes for this item here because I think in looking at the whole picture and hearing a lot of different things, we have to have more strength if we're going to be successful as we want to be. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. LaBonge. Mr. Garcetti.
Thank you. I'll be very brief. I voted no for this yesterday. I'm going to vote no again, but I do support the idea of doing this. And so I support Ms. Perry and Mr. Parks' motion to do this more comprehensively to all departments at once instead of just one today, or all commissions and the proprietaries as well. Thank you. Or Mr. Smith's motion. Sorry. I'm just voting no again on this because I voted no yesterday. I'm going to stay consistent on that, but I wanted to state the record why, which is, as I said yesterday, I don't believe that doing just water and power by itself is the right way forward.
Mr. Parks?
Okay. Thank you very much. I certainly want to support this item today, but we'll have to ask the CLA how we best do this. Jan Perry put a motion in yesterday to ask for, and Mr. Smith, on looking at all proprietary commissions, and I'd like to expand that and ask that all commissions be looked at in that study so we can make a inclusive evaluation of the committee process in the city. So I'd like to add that as a friendly amendment to the motion.
Seconded by Mr. Garcetti.
Which has been sent to committee.
We have a CIF.
It's not before, but we have a CF number. But whatever is the easiest way to do that. Let me ask Mr.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. All I was asking for is that we support this item today, but Mr. Smith and Ms. Perry put together a motion that went to committee yesterday that asked that the other proprietary commissions be looked at. I wanted a friendly amendment to that to ask that all commissions be part of that review so that we can look at the commission system in the city. And so I want to find out how do we best do that.
For clarification, Mr. Alarcon has a question on procedure on this. Mr. Alarcon, your question on this?
Question of the city attorney, just a technical one. That matter is not before us. I don't believe we can introduce a motion.
I'm asking them how to...
No, but somebody seconded your motion, and I don't even know if that can be done.
We're asking the CLA, how do we do it if we have to do it?
No, I'm asking the city attorney.
That item technically isn't before council right now. It's in committee. So you could request the CLA to report back, but there can't be any action, obviously, on that motion.
We just want to do a friendly amendment.
Mr. Parks?
That's all we want to find out. How do we do that as a friendly amendment to her motion yesterday? That's all we want to know.
Mr. Parks, that's fine. The motion was introduced yesterday. It was in the context of this discussion, so I understand you can't take an action, but you could certainly give instruction to come back. So your verbal motion with a second, and we will report back on the broader issues.
So we've satisfied that.
But he can't ask for it.
Thank you.
If I could
Mr. City
clarify,
Attorney.
my understanding is that there's a motion being written that will be introduced but not discussed, and
it was a motion already
yesterday.
Mr. Smith, do you want to comment on this matter for the record?
I don't know why this is confusing, but we introduced the motion yesterday. It was referred to committee. Mr. Parks wants to change the tent and spread it larger. I think the best way to do that would be in committee.
In committee.
And so we'll find out when it's scheduled. That's the cleanest way to do it. Right. Amend it in committee, and we would certainly accept it as a friendly amendment.
Mr. Weezer. I'll come back to you in a second, Rich.
Yes.
A point of order from Mr. Alarcon, then Mr. Weezer.
You sure the clerk does not take that as a motion?
Mr. Garcetti?
I believe the CLA can give us elucidation on this too, but there is two ways in which this would be in order. One is because it's in the time period of the 24 hours since that was introduced. Secondly, it was introduced in the context of this discussion, so it's part of this file. A piece of that was now referred to committee, and a piece of that is moving forward to the ballot, or not, depending on the vote today. So it's still in order of this discussion. And a third thing, yes, you can, because it's still in the context of the continuation of yesterday. It's still the same item that's before us. And then the third thing that I would say, to make everybody fine, is I think it's probably going to Rules and Elections, and we'll make sure it's covered there in Rules and Elections too.
And I'm just saying that I don't believe a motion can be introduced on that subject. And I asked the city attorney, and they concurred.
Mr. City Attorney, clarify that, please.
I'll do my best. The motion that was introduced yesterday was referred to committee, and I believe Mr. Parks wanted to add a further instruction to that. So my interpretation of what Mr. Parks is doing is he's expressing a wish that when it's in committee, that it'll be amended to include that further instruction. But that's the most the council could discuss it right now.
So it's a wish that's been seconded, not a motion. All right.
I don't know if wishes can be seconded.
Okay. Well, you said wish, so we're trying to be accurate. Mr. Weezer.
Thank you. Again, I also voted no on this yesterday, but vote no again today. I think if we move forward with one department,
without the benefit of talking about it in context of the other priorities, we may miss out on an opportunity and not have the benefit of listening to how we remain consistent and how we could move forward comprehensively. So, again, I think we're moving forward with this prematurely, and it's not really addressing the issue that we were most concerned about, and that is the truthfulness of what information is presented to us by DWP and the numbers that they are presenting to us. I think it's a better move to look at all the proprietaries together.
Thank you, Mr. Weezer. Mr. LeBonge.
Yeah, is anybody here from Water and Power? Okay? No, don't call for him yet, Tony. Okay? What I'm saying is, no one's here from Water and Power. That's why I'm changing my vote. Thank you.
Okay, colleagues, I see no other speakers on this particular matter. Mr. Clerk, will you explain one more time so we'll all understand what we're going to vote on?
Mr. President, item 45 as agendized is before you.
Everybody on number 45. Open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
11 ayes, 3 noes.
All right, that matter passes. Next item, please. There's been a request just handed me for number 44. Mr. Garcetti, you want number 44 now? All right, number 44, Mr. Clerk.
Thank you very much, Mr. Zine. And excuse my voice, colleagues. I want to start by just saying a couple general things, because last night I think there was a lot of us calls with folks, people who talked to us and saying, wait a second, you guys gutted what this was all about. I fundamentally disagreed with that analysis, but I also wanted to listen to it and listen to the details of what people's criticisms were and to understand what it was they thought was missing. To quote-unquote have one's lunch handed to them and to have this gutted would have been to accept something, for instance, the DWP wrote, or would have been to not have anything on the ballot at all, or to have a commission that would look at potential reform. This was never that. So we can agree to disagree about what percentage of the potentially strongest language and elements were in this, but my intention yesterday on 11B was to make sure that the overwhelming core, 90% of what we were going after was protected in there, but I heard what people said. I met this morning Mr. Smith and Ms. Perry and I, and we have a motion here. We ran it by some of the folks who were the first advocates of having a ratepayer advocate and of having strong, accountable governance reform at DWP. And I think we all have a consensus that a couple changes should be made today to ensure that we have as strong as possible and as independent as possible analysis of what is going on inside the department. That is that's 44A, that is before you, that Ms. Perry, Mr. Smith, and I introduced today. Let me walk through what it was. One thing that people said had been gutted out was that the employee of the Office of Public Accountability, the names that were in there were taken out. So this puts back in ratepayer advocate and additional positions as prescribed by ordinance. As I said yesterday, and as I still maintain, we will be able to have a strong implementing ordinance that will back up the strong charter vote that finally gives people the analysis that they deserve from DWP and of DWP rates. Secondly, we have G here, which substitute the original G, and put something that I've also agreed with Chuck, Ray, and other people who have said, let's put a specific number in there. I know we heard from some charter reform staff, former charter reform staff, that we shouldn't put a specific number in, but I hear and have heard loud and clear that without a number in there, that might go away. Now, I didn't believe that it would because we're still legally liable to have in the resources necessary, but why not spell that out? We had been criticized by another, I think it was an editorial in the Daily News, saying when it was at 0.1%, that's $4 million in a bureaucracy. 0.025%, colleagues, was about $1 million. We spent last year 1.6 on rate analysis. That's just with PA Consulting and Huron. So when we look at this, this is a responsible floor. We've always said it's a floor. We need the resources necessary, so it can be more. But this spells out what that would be. Those two things get us to where we want, and we take very seriously that it should be independent, that it should be accountable, that it should have the resources that can't be taken away by the political whims, that it not be created by or launched by the department that it seeks to do analysis of, and that it isn't just resting in a political office. Those were the principles, the strength of this. I think today we have that, and we've amended the ordinance to reflect that as well, that is before us, so that we can vote. And I want to thank Ms. Perry and Mr. Smith. I know it didn't sit easy with them either yesterday. And in listening to that, I hope that we have captured what we want to see, and we can only win this if we do this together. There will be those who are opposed to yesterday's and who will be opposed to today's, but they are standing in the way of reform, and we have to make sure that we get reform for our businesses and our residents to finally have a department they can be proud of again. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Garcetti. Mr. Rosendahl.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I want to thank Eric and Greg Smith, the two of you, for working with Chuck Ray and Jack Humphreyville. Chuck is a constituent of mine and showed real leadership on this, and the emails were coming out from both him and Jack yesterday right after the meeting, raising the issues, and I'm just delighted, colleagues, that you took the meeting and that democracy worked at its best, because the neighborhood councils and the folks who really are concerned about the rates get what they should get, which is that kind of transparent, credible strategy that makes everybody feel part of the process. So I'm absolutely enthusiastic about the cooperation that took place and what's before us today, and obviously I want to vote on this. Thank you.
Mr. Cardenas. Mr. Cardenas? On the other side of the room.
At whose desk?
Ed Reyes.
At Ed Reyes' desk. Thank you. Is the language on 44 been distributed? It has? Because I didn't have it at my desk. Maybe on this side it is, but not on that side.
It's on the right side.
No, that's 44A, but the language on 44.
If I could interrupt,
Mr. City Attorney.
we're making copies of the resolution and ordinance right now.
Okay. So I just want to make sure we have it before us before we...
Okay, we have two public speakers and Ms. Hahn, and then by that time we should have the paper.
Thank you.
Ms. Hahn?
To say I appreciate the work that's been done since between yesterday and today on some of these amendments, and I do think it's appropriate that we bring the word back of ratepayer advocate. I really think has become the buzzword for what we're trying to do with all these reforms. Is ultimately we're trying to make sure that someone is looking out for the ratepayers and is their advocate, whether it's on any of these issues, whether it's on the performance of the general manager or the commission or hikes in their rates, anything. We want a ratepayer advocate. So I appreciate getting that back in. I think it makes a difference. A lot is about what the name is, and so I think that's important. So
thank you, Ms. Hahn. Arnold Sachs. Number 44, Arnold Sachs. Are you in the room? There you are. Number 44.
Yes, thank you. Good morning again, Arnold Sachs, the Ratepayer Advocate Program. Taking a page from Councilman Smith's, if you have a pile of crap and you have another pile of crap and you add a slice of crap into that crap sandwich, you're just increasing the crap. If you want to change what you got there, you need to remove something. Take it out. You're keeping the ratepayer advocate, or whatever this position is, under the auspices of the DWP. What does that accomplish for the public and its concerns with the way the DWP treats the ratepayers, who basically own, supposedly, this utility? What about a change in the way things actually are done? What about a change? You have the transfer part on the program as an amendment. What about the public finding out how much they would pay in property taxes instead of the transfer of funds? What about the discussion of the ratepayer advocate in the controller's office? She's the one who came up with the figure, $795 million in the the DWP funds? What happened to that money? What about those discussions? You just brush this off. When it's pointed out, facts are different than what you say. You brush the facts off and go with what you say. These aren't numbers that we bring up. These are reports done by people that are elected here. What's going on?
Wayne Spindler. Wayne Spindler.
Yes, unfortunately, I am a DWP customer, and most of the bill you get in a typical commercial small little office, you might use about $6 worth of energy, but the bill somehow comes out to $50. And the way that they do it is they have service charges and facilities charges and energy cost adjustment and subsidy adjustment. And then after that, they add a utility tax of 12.5% on top of all of those fees. So why do you need another level of bureaucracy at this department? They charge whatever they want. They do whatever they want. They say whatever they want, because we got a mayor that has absolutely no caring whatsoever about what goes on in that department. And there's 5 commissioners. They all have one-man committees. How can you have a one-man committee? That's ridiculous, but that's what they do. And then we have Austin Bootner, and I know he's Butner, but I call him Bootner because he'll get booted one day once everybody's unhappy with him going on. And Bootner really hasn't taken charge of this committee. You got to have at least a quorum of 3 people in a committee if you have a 2-2 tie. But if you have a one-man committee, how do you have a tie? I mean, you bring a matter to motion, one person, and one person can't second a committee. So Lee Cannon Alpert just goes ahead and, goes to the bathroom, sits on the can, and holds his meetings whenever he wants to. And it's $2 billion here, it's $100 million here. This ratepayer advocate isn't going to stop any of this crap. No, the council has to stop it. You need a real mayor that actually reads things. This man doesn't read anything. He's out partying and going to Laker games. So vote no on this. This is poorly written and amended. Thank you.
Terry Ellen Robinson.
Thank you for letting me speak. I'm very concerned about the DWP. I remember, in fact, sitting with my neighborhood council and with the Palms Neighborhood Council. This is about 5 years ago. We were discussing how to go forward with our meetings and stuff, because we were just becoming a committee at that time. And we were talking about the DWP rates and how they were asking for some outrageous amount of money, so we all said we didn't want that high, and they gave the rate they really wanted, which was 11% instead of 18 or whatever it was. We'd all go, gee, great, we didn't have to pay as much. But 11 was too much in the first place. The DWP has been holding us hostage for a long time. I was really glad to hear in the last council meeting I attended that the council would oversee this by setting up a commission. I think the council needs to be on top of the DWP because they just charge too much. Now they're going to be building the renewables as they've been regulated. That's the elephant in the room, because that's going to cost a lot of money and require a lot of oversight. And I thought a taxpayer advocate would be a great thing to do. We could set up this group, you have the person at the top, and then people have ability to hunt out fraud and so forth, and keep it online. We need to do this. Otherwise, we're going to be paying out a lot of money for nothing. And that's my comments for today. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Weezer.
Thank you. A few years ago when I first introduced the idea of a ratepayer advocate, there was a lot of pushback. And the pushback came from all sectors. Number one, the DWP didn't even want to look at it. We tried to compromise and try to do an ombudsperson. And then the pendulum swung after they refused to give us the $70 million, and they gave us a proposal to raise rates that were unsubstantiated, and the idea of an inspector general and some other ideas came up. But I think this does lead us on a path to finally get that advocacy we need for the ratepayers within an independent unit that will do that. We've come a long way. Sometimes it takes the frustration, the distrust of the ratepayers to get to a crisis moment, to move the bureaucracy to do something, and we're at that moment right now. But it's going to take a lot more than this. We're going to make sure that once we get the independent ratepayer advocate in there, that we truly get the information we need and that we hold the DWP accountable. This is the first. It's not the end. It's the beginning of holding DWP accountable. And ladies and gentlemen, that's how sausage is made. Some people were happy one day, unhappy another. But sausage is made this way. Politics, it takes compromise and working with many stakeholders to get what we need. We're at that point. Yesterday we discussed the idea of we've been discussing the idea of giving this office the money it needs to survive. Because after all, without necessary funding, without that budget, they won't be able to do any work. The $1 million floor will go a long way to ensure that this office has what it needs to move forward. We're finally here at that moment. It is the beginning, not the end. Thank you.
All right, colleagues, this matter is before us.
Mr. President, before council is 44 as amended with 44A.
Mr. Cardenas?
Point of clarification, the document is before us. It has been distributed. Just wanted to make sure, since I pointed that out earlier. Thank you very much. It's before us.
And I noticed some cards here that 43, 44, 45, one is for 43, two are for 43, and then there's 44, 44, 44. Do we need to take those cards before we vote? Okay, 44. Because some of these folks put multiple numbers on the card. Maya Zutler. Maya. And on number 44, we also have Dr. Williams.
Thank you. Good morning. Maya Zettler on behalf of VICA, the Valley Industry and Commerce Association. We are here to oppose item 44, including the amendment that was submitted this morning, 44A. We understand that this concept has been debated over the past year or so, and we've been at multiple hearings and testified on this issue, but we just are opposed to it because we feel that all of these details that are very critical to this plan are coming out very late and haven't been thoroughly studied and evaluated to determine, is this the best budget, is this the most efficient use of our dollars, taxpayer dollars and ratepayer dollars, to create this budget for a ratepayer advocate office. We again feel that we don't need a charter amendment. It won't be necessary to have a charter amendment on this issue, and if the ratepayers did request it, DWP would be able to create this division within DWP. So we're asking for you to oppose this before you today. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Williams? Mr. Smith?
Mr. President, if you would, from VICA, and I appreciate what you said, but I have to ask a question because while I've worked with VICA for many years, I think there needs to be a fair disclosure here. Does not Water and Power fund many of your programs at VICA, many of your lunches and stuff?
They're a member, yes.
And don't they have a member on your board of directors as well?
They have one member out of 80 on
I think
the board.
just for fair disclosure, you need to that needs to be said.
Sure.
Because you're saying you're here for business, and every business person will benefit from what we're putting on the ballot today. And I just think you need to be very open about what's on your board and that they fund many of your programs.
We have over 350 members, and they are one of our members, yes.
Thank you. Dr. Williams. Mr. Labange, before Dr.
History
Williams.
of VICA, it was Water and Power that helped form it because of the necessity to give focus and strength to the San Fernando Valley for the industrialization of the valley. So VICA does a good job, and that's a very good point that you made as well, Mr. Smith.
Dr. Williams.
Dr. Clyde Williams, El Sereno. What affects the rates? Everything in DWP affects the rates. So when you say a ratepayer's advocate, well, that means they need access to everything. That's why I changed it from ratepayer's advocate to inspector general. And you have an office now. By the way, yesterday the BWP was considering it also.
and they were going to give $785,000 a year to the ratepayers advocate. That's 3 positions in DWP. The auditors get $200,000 a year. So funding is the most important thing. If you don't have the funding, how can you go after almost everything in DWP is related to the rates? Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Labange. Mr. Garcetti.
Just wanted to make a verbal amendment on the resolution, the ballot title in question, which previously was Department of Water and Power Office of Public Accountability Charter Amendment, to add a semicolon before Charter Amendment Ratepayer Advocate. Now that we have that back in place, this is where the voters read. They want to know what this is. An office sounds like something bureaucratic. So Department of Water and Power, semicolon Office of Public Accountability, semicolon Ratepayer Advocate Charter Amendment.
All right, any more clarification needed, colleagues? Seeing none, open the roll. Close the roll. Mr. Cardenas, before we take the vote, you have a question? Okay. Close the roll, tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Mr. Cardenas?
Mr. President, it appears that with the passage of 45 today, that item number 43, perhaps it's the most appropriate that we receive and file that item. That was an item that was introduced, I think, by Ms. Perry.
We have 2 public comment cards on 43. We will take those and then we will take the vote.
Mr. City Attorney, if we receive and file it, is it required for us to have public comment?
Yes, since the receiving and filing is an action.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Dr. Williams, number 43.
Dr. Clyde Williams, 4115 Bear Road, El Sereno. Also DWP liaison for the LA 32 Neighborhood Council. Don't let the existing commissioners finish out their terms. That's going to be 5 years from now. We need the ratepayers' concerns within the board now. So give them maybe 2 years, 3 years, half their terms, and then get the other 2 commissioners appointed as soon as possible. We need it. Now, the problem will be as to how to get them there. We, at one time, in the neighborhood councils, we were looking at being able to appoint maybe 1 out of 90 neighborhood councils, getting 1 person to the board. Well, that was taken out. So, visibility, well, it's all defined by DWP. So I would hope that you would be able to get rid of the existing commissioners in a more timely fashion. Say 1 to 2 years max. Thank you.
Frank Sheftel in Van Nuys. I understand there is no one in Van Nuys at this time, but let's verify. Frank Sheftel, Van Nuys. No one in Van Nuys. Okay, thank you. So the matter is now before us, colleagues, for our receive and file. Open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
That's number 43. Let's go to number 30. Number 30. And we have 1 card on number 30. Vin Evola Smith or Lynn Evola. Is it Lynn?
Yes, Lynn. Thank you.
Okay.
Very much. I just
Number
wanted...
30. Go ahead, please proceed.
We would like to create the California Peace Angel at 3 feet to go to the Youth Tech Center on 4th and Glass. It's created from nuclear missiles and street weapons, contemporary weapons, and is a beautiful work of art. So we would like to offer this as a gift to the city of Los Angeles.
Thank you. And Mr. Weezer.
Thank you very much, and if you could stay up there, please. I want to sincerely thank you on behalf of the residents of the city of Los Angeles. I know you flew out from New York today to make this presentation and to be around in the festivities that have been occurring because of your donation of this Peace Angel. Now, this Peace Angel that you're going to donate is made up of guns, former guns and rifles, and that will be melted down to make a Peace Angel. And I think it's very appropriate where it will go. It's going to go at the Boyle Heights Tech Center, a community facility that was created in what once was one of the most dangerous neighborhoods on the east side of Los Angeles, that now there's children's activities, families' activities, a place where children could go, and as adults also can go and learn. And so it's going to be very, very appropriate that we put there that will coincide not only with the changes in the neighborhood, but that sends a very strong message. Let's melt down our guns and create art for our community. And I know that Ozzy Lopez is here, the executive director of the Boyle Heights Tech Center, someone who's been doing a wonderful job at that tech center supporting our youth. Thank you for the gift. Thank you for beautifying our center. Thank you for beautifying Los Angeles. We are the City of Angels, and to have a Peace Angel made up of former guns, it's really a powerful message for our young people. So thank you so much. Let's give her a round of applause.
Yes,
Thank you.
very well. Thank you. Ms. Hahn, we have some more speakers.
Thank you.
Please stand there.
Thank you. Well, I wanted to rise and also add my admiration and gratefulness to what Lynn Evola is doing here. And I, of course, am envious that the first Peace Angels is going to Boyle Heights, but, it will be a great symbol there. Was it yesterday or the day before? The day before, we were down on Terminal Island at the Port of Los Angeles, where SA Recycling has offered to shred these confiscated weapons, guns, rifles. So we watched as Sheriff Baca and Chief Beck, actually the first time a law enforcement agency has donated confiscated weapons to a non-law enforcement agency for peace. And it was quite impressive. We saw all the guns, the rifles. They were shredded in, less than a couple of minutes. And then we saw what was left of them, and we know now they're going to go up north, they're going to get melted down, and this artist will shepherd that process through to the completion of a Peace Angel. There's no better way than to get these guns off the street permanently so that they no longer can ever be used to harm an individual, but will be a symbol. And we are the City of Angels. Everybody relates to what an angel means, a guardian angel, someone watching over you. It's a beautiful, beautiful symbol. We thank you, Lynn, for your vision. We thank you for really trying to take something that was so evil and used only for harm and turn it into a beautiful tribute to peace. We hope it's a message that the next generation growing up will understand, will take to heart, and they will choose to take a life of peace rather than a life of crime. Thank you for what you're doing. I hope to get one of these angels in the 15th Council District, maybe at the Port of Los Angeles, so that all our international visitors could see that we're not a city of gang violence, but we're a city of peace. And I hope to work with you on that. Thank you.
And the Angel of Los Angeles, Tom LeBon.
Well, no, thank you very much. No, this is an angel who created an angel, who came to the City of Angels, who asked, how could we do a piece of art? And you created this all in a period of months. Less than a year ago, you showed up on the scene with your passion and your heart. And I think, Mr. Huizar, as you said, you're so fortunate to have it. Ms. Hahn, how about at Angels Gate, maybe? Put it together. This is what it is. But this is the great thing I like about our city and our opportunity is that someone has a goal and it works, we get that goal. So, Eva Saint, thank you. You're a saint for doing this. Thank you very much.
Mr. Huizar?
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I also want to take this opportunity to introduce Ms. Gina Rhoda, the Executive Director of the Art of Peace Charitable Fund based here in Los Angeles. Thank you for being here with us. I'm not sure, did you also want to say a few words? I know you filled out a speaker's card, I believe, so why don't you take this moment to fill out a speaker's card. And finally, Lynn visited Boyle Heights back in 1995 when you were doing some peace walks with Dolores Mission. The 90s was probably one of the worst times for Boyle Heights and all of East LA in terms of gang violence. I recall coming back from college and my younger brother told me he didn't even feel safe walking to the park, playing in the park. It's a very different neighborhood now, and thankfully we've done a lot better job at reducing gang violence and lessening the tears, lessening families crying for their loved ones who have been victims of crime, and this is really a strong message. Thank you for your work, and Ms. Rhoda, thank you for being here as well today, and I'll take the privilege if the President allows me to allow her to speak now under her card. Thank you.
Thank you,
All right. Any comments?
Yes, thank you. It's an honor and a privilege to be here today, and thank you for the council members and all your contributions in every way. And this is really about inspiration, cooperation, and transformation, and I think it'll serve the community in Los Angeles and the world in ways that we see, we'll know and we won't know, and I'm very proud to be part of this project, and any way that we can serve, I'm available. So thank you kindly.
Thank you very much.
Very grateful.
Thank you. On that matter, open the roll.
Okay.
Close the roll, tabulate the vote.
14 ayes.
Mr. Clerk, next item, please.
I believe there's a request to take item 41 next, sir.
Number 41.
It was called special by Councilmember Hahn. And
Ms. Hahn,
for
we have
cards.
some cards on number 41. We'll take those cards, if that's okay. Mr. Arnold Sachs, number 41.
Great for you. Yes, thank you. Good afternoon, Arnold Sachs. I'd just like to get an idea, more importantly for the city of LA or the people that live in the city of LA, just exactly how this increased tax will be spent, on how it will be portioned out for the different city liabilities that occur, the police, the fire, and maybe if you could clarify also, on yesterday's agenda you had 13 ballot measures to be considered. In today's Daily Breeze, it said City Council puts 9 items on the ballot. On today's agenda, you have 5 items for a second reading. So, thinking that you went from 13 to 9, 4 weren't considered. Of the 9 that were left, only 5 are here for a second reading, and 1 is just a receive and file. So what about the other 4 that haven't had their second reading, and the receive and file item is not a ballot measure anymore? Maybe you could clarify for the public how many ballots are going to be inclusive on the March election, and just which ones are having a second reading, and if the other ones don't have a second reading, what happens then? This is the information that needs to come before the public so they know. Just
Mr. Sachs, this is on item number 41. It's not regarding all the items, so please address
I understand that, sir.
So just discuss number 41, please.
It would be nice if the council addressed my concerns. Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 41 is what we're discussing, colleagues. Wayne Spindler, number 41.
Yeah, taxing, tax. That's all you got. Now it's going to be a barrel of oil. What's next? Toll roads and the 405 and the 101. This is just another way to try to paper over a budget that will never be balanced. It's not overall going to kill the economy, but you can't just keep asking the voters to take a look at something with the word TAX in it and expect it to be received favorably. They're going to vote this thing down, and also it has to be passed by 2/3 because it's a tax increase. It's not going to make it. And they're just going to waste, $4 or $5 million to print this thing and put it on this ballot that's already loaded down. So vote no on this. It's a wrong message to send to a particular industry, the oil and gas industry, that has a lot of business and creates a lot of jobs in the Southern California region. Thank you. 1 minute.
Maya Zuller?
Thank you. Good morning. Maya Zettler on behalf of VICA, the Valley Industry and Commerce Association. VICA is here to oppose this proposal to place this measure on the March 2011 municipal ballot. We believe that this is the wrong time and the wrong message to send, especially after the November 3rd election and Prop 26 passing. We know that the voters are very reticent to support any tax increases at this time. We feel that in this economic climate, we need to find ways to support business and help business, not tax them. And we know that this is not just another harmful tax. This is something that will be passed on to consumers. And so we're asking you today to please oppose putting this on the March ballot. Thank you.
Anne Marie Kirby. Mr. Alarcon?
No, well, I wanted to ask the same question. Do oil companies, are they members of VICA as well? Are oil companies members of VICA as well?
Ms. Zuller, the question for Mr. Alarcon, if you could please address that.
In other words, are any of the companies that might be taxed members of your
We
organization?
have one member, yes, Chevron.
Chevron is a member, oh, okay. One of the biggest in the world. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, our next speaker, Anne Marie Kirby.
Yes, I was here about a month ago, and I brought up the subject of a parcel or an acreage of a dirt lot for We Can Live organization, and I was talking to Horowitz, the 17th district, it could have been the 11th, helper to Rosenthal, and that worked out. That worked out all right. But what I wanted to bring up is, how can I get a day through the year for Schindler, the savior of all the Jews? How can that be possible? That's the subject that I want to bring up. He was one of my heroes. Maybe to put it into consideration, to vote in a day. Would I have to go higher?
Are you talking about the oil tax, ma'am?
The Schindler.
The Schindler?
The Jews and the World War.
No, ma'am. You're way off the target.
No.
Yeah, you're off the target. You're either going to discuss this particular matter, or you're concluded.
Yeah. All right. And I need to find out, maybe by Rosenthal, that the city council in San Diego to change La Jolla to La Jolla.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you. You're way off the subject matter. Your conversation is now over. Thank you. Ms. Hahn. Ms. Hahn.
Thank you. Colleagues, taking a bigger look at this idea of putting on the ballot the idea of charging our oil companies for taking the oil from the city limits. I've reconsidered this, and I have heard from various business groups who do feel like this might be the wrong climate to put this on the ballot. We know the oil companies are probably going to mount a massive campaign to defeat this, and at the end of the day, the way we've structured it really would only generate around $2 million to the city of Los Angeles. So at this time, it's my recommendation that we don't put this forward on the ballot. But there are many surrounding cities that have it. The state of California is one of the few states in the country that doesn't have an oil severance tax. States like Texas actually fund their entire higher education system through their oil severance tax. So it can be profitable. It can fund things that we believe in. But I think at this time, I've listened to our business community and feel like at this time it's the wrong time to put this on the ballot. So I'm just going to ask that we note and file this, take another look at it later, and maybe bring it forward at a later date when it makes more sense.
All right, Ms. Hahn, thank you. Mr. Alarcon, Ms. Hahn's direction is to note and file this matter.
Well, was that a motion?
That's her motion, note and file.
Note file.
And is there a second, Mr. Alarcon?
No, I didn't second.
Is there someone seconding the motion? Mr. Smith. Mr. Smith. Okay, Mr. Krikorian, any comment on this, sir?
Well, yeah, I mean, I respect Ms. Hahn's decision to do that, but I have to say, you know, California is the only oil-producing state in the entire United States of America that doesn't have an oil extraction tax. This city, it competes with other cities that produce oil. We don't have an oil extraction tax here. And I think I hope that we'll be serious about continuing this discussion because this is an important source of revenue that we should be taking advantage of. And I'm really disappointed to hear public comment from a business organization saying that this is going to be passed on to the consumer. That's absolute nonsense. And anybody who understands the first thing about the oil market globally knows that oil prices that the consumer pays, gasoline prices that the consumer pays, are dictated by a global marketplace, not what the city of Los Angeles decides to do on the infinitesimal amount of oil that we extract here compared to the global marketplace. So it's absolute nonsense to think that this tax could possibly be passed on to the consumer. So, Ms. Hahn, if it's your decision to note and file this, I respect that, but I would urge you to continue to explore this for future opportunities to be able to take advantage of this revenue source, which we sorely need. And yes, maybe it's only $2 million, but $2 million pays for a lot of police. It pays for a lot of firefighters. It pays for a lot of street repair. And we really need to be taking a much more serious look, and the business community needs to be taking a much more serious look at how we provide revenues that won't impact consumers at all in order to pay for the vital services that this city needs and should be provided to its citizens.
Thank you. Mr. Rosendahl?
I don't understand why we're receiving filing it, and I must say, Paul Krikorian, I agree with you 100% on this. The oil companies on this planet have been ripping us off dramatically. They set their prices, they raise the rates, we all suffer on our end. It's absolutely absurd and ridiculous how they've been dominating our economy in this country and around the world. We should get a real piece of their profit so we can actually build our infrastructure, support our schools, and get health care. They've been the bandits, in my opinion, in the last 10 years with their outrageous gouging. So I hope the day will come when we'll put something on the ballot where the people can say, yes, we're tired of your gouging and your manipulation of the public in all of its ways. And so I look forward to that day when we get a chance to put it on our ballot. Thank you,
Mr. Parks.
Thank you, Mr. President. There's two disappointments here. One, that we lowered the dollar value from 144 to 60, and then the second disappointment is we're not going after the $4 million that we need. And again, I thought the $1.44 was minimum that we should be charging. The one thing we would forestall is we never hear them say they're going to leave L.A. because of the higher costs, because the oil is in L.A. So I would say clearly, if it's $4 million, it should be $4 million and plus, and we should be looking at a way in which it should be more than 144. It should be a reasonable dollar figure for what the impact. And when we think about where those oil fields are, if you live around them, you will find from the community, not only is it a eyesore, but also if you, in the area that I represent right next door in Windsor Hills, people actually believe because of the slant drilling, it's impacting their foundations and it's impacting their ability to maintain their homes. And so the oil companies, I believe, owe the city of LA some funds for benefits to the community to beautify those locations, to also bring forward ability to ensure that the structures around them are not being impaired. And again, it's a resource that's making literally billions of dollars on our residents, and we are getting minimal pennies on dealing with the issue of gross tax receipts. This is an industry that has benefited mightily from the driver-conscious LA residents, and we need not to ignore this revenue source. We need to figure out how to enhance it.
Mr. Alarcon.
I didn't press my button.
No, just your button was pushed, so. Mr. Lamonge.
CAO Petroleum Coordinator. Is there still a CAO Petroleum Coordinator? Okay. Thank you.
Okay, this matter is now being pulled to receive and file. That's right. It's being pulled to be received and filed. Ms. Hound, you have a
So I made a motion that was to receive and file this, but if it's the will of this body to move forward and put this on, then you would have to vote no on the receive and file. But I think in this climate, it's probably not going to win, but hey.
All right, colleagues, and that was seconded by Mr. Smith. So open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
7 ayes, 6 noes.
We're voting to receive and file this matter. All right. There were some folks that, Mr. Garcetti? Okay, we're going to redo this. We'll do this again. I'll go real slow. We're going to vote on this matter to receive and file. A yes means receive and file. A no means we're going to move forward with the ballot measure. Open the roll. Close the roll. Mr. Garcetti.
Colleagues, while we're voting on this, 2 clarifications which we made before. If somebody's button isn't working, we do revotes because of that. If there is somebody who's out of the room, then that is not an acceptable reason. It wasn't because somebody was out of the room. People claim they're voting no. Sometimes the machines don't work. That has happened consistently. So we're revoting it, just period. And then people can decide whether they want to reconsider after that vote.
So, Madam Clerk, please clear the roll so we can take a vote now on a clean slate. We're voting on your matter, Ms. Hahn. A yes vote is receive and file. A no vote means it's going to go on the ballot. Open the roll.
No.
Close the roll. Pardon me? We'd vote again. We'd vote again. All right. Open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
5 ayes, 8 noes.
Now it is still before us, and people can vote on it. It doesn't go away just because the receive and file. It stays here, living on, although today is the deadline to act.
We'd have Mr. Huizar, Mr. Koretz, Mr. Parks. Mr. Huizar?
Yeah, can I have the CAO and the CLA to the table, please?
Hold my time. Mr. Garcetti for clarification.
Thank you. I just want to verify, do you see any issues with this legal... Excuse me, Ms. Hahn, I can't hear my own question. Thank you. Do you see any issues, legal or financial, with this proposal as written going forward to the ballot?
I'm not sure what you mean by legal. We did confirm that it's not impacted by Prop 26.
It does not?
No.
Everything's fine. Financial, any issues that you see financially that we should be concerned about putting this on the ballot?
Well, obviously, the amount that you set will determine how much you get. So,
and the amount that's there now, how much do we anticipate receiving?
The amount that we recommended was 144, and we anticipated generating over $4 million.
Per year?
Per year, correct.
Thank you.
Mr. Koretz.
Yeah, no questions. I just want to say this issue is a no-brainer. It's a win-win tax if there ever was one. We know that the oil companies may fight this, but I think this is intuitive enough that the voters will get it and will be able to pass it. So give us the chance.
Mr. Parks.
Let me just ask Miguel and Jerry, on the issue that we had yesterday at $1.44 per barrel, what would that raise?
The estimated revenue for 2.9 million barrel production would be $4,176,000.
Okay.
We would
and
recommend
what would the 60 cent, the one that's before us today, the 60 cent?
Maybe about 1.8.
About 1.8 million. And we would recommend, if you're going to move forward on a set dollar amount, that you also include a CPI. That would be...
Okay. The thing, colleagues, I'd like to make a motion that we move the item from yesterday, the 144, and include the CPI.
So, Mr. Rosendahl.
It's dynamic right now. This is the right thing to do.
Democracy
And,
in
let
action.
the oil companies pump their money in. The more they pump it in, the more the people are going to vote for this tax. I'm tired of them manipulating us in this democracy. So I look forward to this going on the ballot. As Mr. Corrett said, it's a no-brainer that the people have had enough of being used and manipulated. That $4 million will help us with the libraries. It'll help us with a lot of things for our general treasury, and we could use the money now. Thank you.
Mr. Krikorian. Mr. Krikorian?
I'm going to pass it.
Mr. Labange?
Santana, what does the petroleum coordinator do for the city of Los Angeles in your office?
I mean, it's basically our office has been assigned authority over the mineral rights, and so whenever issues surface regarding that matter, then we are asked to conduct a review on it.
And how much revenue does the city get for the variety of pipelines and oil-related dollars?
I would have to get back to you. I don't know on the top
But
of my
you
head.
guess it's significant? Like parking meter money, it's significant?
I don't know exactly, so I don't want to speculate on that.
Okay, and then how are we going to raise the revenue from this? What is it actually doing?
It's similar to what other jurisdictions have throughout the county. Other Long Beach, Beverly Hills, a number of other cities have a similar kind of fee. It basically is based on the extraction of the oil. It's not, if you're thinking about the minerals, which is a royalty on the minerals, that's a completely separate issue. This is based on where the oil is being extracted. That jurisdiction is generating revenue.
Do we know where we're extracting oil right now in Los Angeles? I know in Pico and Doheny, I think there's an oil derrick. Do we know where, some parts of the Baldwin Hills, do we know where we're extracting oil?
We could provide you a specific report. Here it is. There are sites, I have a map in front of me, there are sites mainly in the southern part of the city, but as far northeast as Sherman Oaks, in the San Vicente area, in the San Pedro area, obviously.
So basically, let's say there's an oil derrick east of Century City, in the city of Beverly Hills, whatever that city of Beverly Hills is charging a fee that the oil companies are paying for that oil derrick that is extracting oil, and we want to be equal to what other municipalities are. That's what this is about.
Cities like Santa Fe Springs, Inglewood, Huntington Beach, Beverly Hills, Seal Beach, Signal Hill, Long Beach, all have similar kinds of fees.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Garcetti?
Thank you. Mr. Labange, actually, the third largest oil field in America is in Los Angeles. There's one in Alaska, one in Texas, and then the third largest is the one that basically is all underneath the basin here. It's how this town grew. It was discovered. Do you know where it was discovered, Mr. Labange? Do you know where the first oil was discovered? Exactly, right by Belmont High School there. Echo Park. You can't stop Tom. That's what we all know. It's just fun asking him questions. I just have a simple question for the city attorney. I saw Pete. Pedro, can I ask you a question?
I'm sorry.
With the passage of Prop 26, I think, was it 26 or 25, the two-thirds, 26, is this a two-thirds vote now instead of a simple majority?
It's for
Proposition 26 wouldn't apply to this tax, so
It's just
it's a
a vote to
majority
put it-
vote to put it on the ballot.
No, not to put on the ballot for passage.
A majority vote as well, because it's a general election. So long as we don't make it a special tax, it's a general tax, which
As long as
this
it's not
would
a
be.
fee attached to, because the
It's
language
majority
was
vote.
this was an extraction fee, so I was wondering, but it's not a fee in that sense of Prop 26.
Correct.
Okay.
It's a majority vote.
Ms. Hahn.
Boy, when I want you with me, you're against me. When I want you against me, you're with me. Friends don't let friends say no to their own motion. I will say that the other reason when I was still in favor of this that I brought it back down to the 60 cents was because at $1.44, colleagues, just to let you know, that will be the highest in the region, anywhere. So if you think our business friends are unhappy with the 60 cents per barrel, they will really go after us, I think, for the $1.44. That puts us the highest of any city that's charging an oil extraction tax. Yes, it raises more money, which was my dilemma. That's why I brought it down to 60 cents. But I will just to let you know what you're going into is that is the highest in the region. And most of the time when we do things, we like to be comparable to the surrounding cities. This puts us higher than any other city that has an oil extraction tax. So just to let you know what you're all going into. But hey, more power to you.
Mr. Parks.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to clarify my understanding that yesterday, item 6, that was brought before the council November the 12th, we'd like to move that because it already has inserted in there the 144 as a price of the barrel, and it also has CPI. So we'd move that as originally presented. Let me ask the city attorney, does that cover our issue so we can make sure that is on the ballot and with the proper language?
Yes, and until a different motion is made, that is the item that's before you.
Mr. Krikorian.
Well, thank you, Ms. Hahn, for the clarification on the amount. But I have no problem with having Los Angeles lead the way in this area. And I suspect that other municipalities in the area will be happy to follow our lead, again, because an extraction tax has zero impact on the consumer. Zero. So for the only conceivable impact this has is if an oil company decides that they're going to extract, more from one well rather than the other. If that's the case, then they're going to also have fewer impacts here on health and safety issues in Los Angeles as well. So, I am all for moving forward with the $1.44. The one suggestion that I would have on the ballot title aspect of this is that we should clarify, because it's been apparent over the last couple of days from the public speakers that there's a misperception about what this is, and I think it ought to be clarified in the ballot designation that we on the second to last line, that it should say adopted to impose a tax on oil-producing businesses of $1.44 per barrel, so that it's absolutely clear this tax is imposed on the extracting companies, on the global oil companies that are taking the natural resources of the city of Los Angeles, and not on consumers who are driving their cars. This is a tax on companies that come in from around the world to extract the natural resources of the city of Los Angeles, impacting the residents of Los Angeles. And some of those revenues ought to stay here in Los Angeles to take care of our residents.
Seconded by Mr. Rosendahl. Mr. Cardenas.
A ballot designation language, is that set yet, or?
What's the question? I'm sorry, what's the question?
What's the ballot designation language? You know how when people...
The ballot title?
The ballot title,
yes. It reads right now, in order to fund... I'm sorry, I don't have the actual version that's before you. This is a slightly different version. Yes, I'm sorry.
The latest version, what is it?
In order to fund general municipal services, including but not limited to such matters as police, protection, and crime suppression services, fire prevention and suppression services, park and recreation facilities, and general improvements throughout the city, shall an ordinance be adopted to impose a tax of $1.44 per barrel of oil produced in the city of Los Angeles. My understanding of the motion that was just made is that it would add the wordings where it says $1.44 per barrel, would add the words on businesses on oil-producing businesses in the city of Los Angeles.
Okay. But was that the language that you added?
The language that I moved would be to interlineate after the word tax on oil-producing businesses. So it would read, adopted to impose a tax on oil-producing businesses of $1.44 per barrel of oil produced in the city of Los Angeles.
Yes, and we can interlineate that language if so desired.
I just wanted to make sure that before it leaves that it's intact. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Mr. Alarcon, you have a question? I couldn't hear what you're saying. Okay. Mr. Rosendahl? Mr. Krikorian? All right. So, Mr. Clerk, can you please explain what we're going to vote on this time?
Yes, Mr. President. Before you is the matter as agendized yesterday at the amount of $1.44 per barrel, inasmuch as the item 41 that was distributed, while being distributed, was not introduced. So we have what is before you yesterday with the Mr. Krikorian's motion, seconded by Mr. Rosendahl, to interlineate after the word tax on the ballot title, quote unquote, on oil-producing businesses.
Hold on. We're going to vote on that matter now. Mr. Krikorian?
Separately vote on my motion, or is that, can that be just accepted as friendly and we can...
Mr. City Attorney? There was the receive and file by Ms. Hahn, and now we're on another track.
No, actually, we're on track here for item 41. If it's accepted as friendly, it would be voted on as amended.
Is it going to be accepted as friendly? Is it accepted as friendly? All right. So let's open the roll. We're voting. We're voting on Mr. Krikorian, you got a word that everyone's trying to figure out. How are you going to include that word in?
What we are voting on? Are you asking me for clarification on what we're voting on? What we're voting on is the proposal as it was submitted yesterday, not as was distributed in 41A this morning, but what we voted on yesterday, what was before us yesterday, with the following change, that in the ballot designation portion only, there would be an interlineation after the word tax to specify that the tax is, quote, on oil-producing businesses, close quotes.
All right. So that's what we're voting on, colleagues. Open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
12 ayes, 1 no.
Well, that's called a reversal. I think that's a unique reversal. You're seeing history being made.
Mr. President, that brings us to item 28 called Special for Cars.
All right, number 28. All right, number 28, colleagues. On number 28, see no one on the queue? Open the roll. Close the roll, tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Mr. Garcetti, did you have an item you wanted to bring up? Okay. Mr. Clerk, next item.
That leaves us item number 25.
25, public comment cards. Arnold Sachs. Number 25. Mr. Sachs, you are done. Your time is used up, so you're not going to be able to speak anymore today. On the regular meeting, Don Duncan. Don Duncan. Number 25.
Good afternoon, council members. My name is Don Duncan, a resident of Los Angeles and the California Director of Americans for Safe Access. And I'm here today to speak in favor of the proposed amendment to the medical cannabis ordinance described in the city attorney's report. This is a common sense improvement. It will help legal collectives stay eligible to register and to abide by the rules, which I think is the common goal shared by the council members and the community. And so I hope you will approve this amendment. It's a little bit complicated. As you begin to discuss it, there may be some efforts to modify it, and I hope that you will stay the course and to adopt this amendment as it's written so that it can reflect your intentions and not go off track in a complicated process of amending. So I would encourage you guys to support it. The community stands behind it. Many of the patients are here today to support it. And I want to thank you for considering this amendment and the spirit of compromise and the desire to make it work. Thank you very much.
Nevin Suis. Is that, what's your last name?
It's pronounced Sice.
Sice, okay.
Good afternoon. I'm here to support this amendment to the medical cannabis ordinance, which we'll be voting on. I think it's unfair to disqualify this list of co-ops due to a technicality and will ultimately hurt the city. The co-ops on the list for closure that I'm familiar with lead by example and are respected in their communities. It will be a shame to force them to close because of a narrow interpretation of the ordinance. I encourage you to do what's right and fix this one problem with the ordinance so patients can continue to have safe access to this medicine. Thank you.
Last name, Bolanos. It's hard to read that writing.
Hello, City Council. I'm here. My name is Jamilet Bolaños. I'm a resident of the City of Los Angeles. I'm patient operator for Pure Life Alternative Wellness Center and president of the Greater Los Angeles Caregivers Alliance. I'm here today on behalf of the patients of the City of Los Angeles to thank Janice Hahn and Mr. Koretz for making this very sensible decision to amend the ordinance. That's frankly the first step in a lot of steps that have to be taken to fix this ordinance that Mr. Tutanich messed up so badly. I'm here to urge the rest of you to please be good to the patients of the City of Los Angeles. It's the right thing to do. And there's several hundred thousands of us in the City of Los Angeles today, and I'm telling you guys, be good to us. And when come election time, we'll be good back. Thank you very much.
Sam Numidia.
Honorable members of the City Council, thank you for your time today. My name is Sam Hamid. I operate Perennial Holistic Wellness Center in Studio City. I owe you and former council members a sincere debt of gratitude for the courageous efforts you've taken in years past protecting safe access to medical cannabis in Los Angeles. From the inception of the first dispensary, members of the cannabis industry worked diligently to self-regulate. Organizations like the Greater Los Angeles Caregivers Alliance have implemented accreditation programs to achieve industry continuity. In 2007, during the height of federal scrutiny, you asked us to expose our necks and register our dispensaries. To overcome counter-tactics by the DEA, City Council authored a hardship exemption to protect those dispensaries willing to stand up for patients' rights. Unfortunately, flawed language in the hardship allowed for a proliferation of fly-by-night dispensaries, which tarnished the efforts of most of the people in this room, City Council members included. You guys have done a wonderful job of cleaning up the wild green west. It's now time to call your posse off the pioneers in this room who are here to help. In these trying economic times, the City Council is asked to find the money to keep seniors fed, shelter the homeless, fix broken roads, put people to work, etc. You have a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. to work with business operators who want to help the city tap into the country's largest cash crop. Collectively, pre-ICO dispensary operators in the city are wasting $100,000 a day in a court fight to reestablish the communication and teamwork that we once had. I urge the City Council to accept the motion and revisit the ordinance as a whole and find a way to help us help you help them. Thank you.
Is anybody in Van Nuys? We have a card from Van Nuys. Is anyone at Van Nuys? No one's at Van Nuys. Okay, we will follow the card. Frank Shefto. Barry Kramer.
Hello, Council. Thank you very much for your time today. I'm here to speak in support of the motion that we're considering right now. I am very happy to be here on a day when I do think you're going to do something positive for the medical marijuana patients here in Los Angeles, but not only the patients of Los Angeles, but also the communities in which they receive their medication. We are concerned with our communities that we operate in as well. So I'm very happy about this. I'd like to thank Ms. Hahn and Mr. Koretz for putting forward this motion, and I certainly look forward to seeing you on the many motions yet to come to amend this very flawed ordinance. Thank you very much.
Serge Conte. That's our final public speaker on item number 25.
Good morning, Council. Dejay Kuti, Council District 4. Just to reiterate what my colleagues had said, yes, we support this amendment. It's going to be one of many amendments to fix the ordinance. We've got a lottery system in this ordinance that I think has already been kind of challenged in court, along with some other things. So I hope that you will just continue to work with us. We'll plug through this ordinance and get back to Councilman Zine's original motion calling these legally existing retail establishments, and that way taxing them appropriately is going to be a lot easier in the future. Thank you. I hope you vote on this today.
Thank you. Ms. Hahn.
Thank you. I just want everybody to know that even though this is my motion, I'm against it, so I expect a unanimous vote.
At least we'll remain consistent.
No, I think what we have here finally is a way to create what has been a very difficult ordinance. We've really never traveled this path of trying to regulate our medical marijuana clinics. So I think what we have here today is years of hard work, sitting down at the table with those who are involved in this business and finding a way to keep these medical marijuana collectives accountable. We're regulating them in terms of the distance they can be from schools and parks. But this is a way that we can assure that they're going to be run responsibly. We've given them the ability to run these collectives in a way that is responsible and that most importantly will provide safe access to the patients who depend on these clinics for medical marijuana. So I think what we have before us today is a good ordinance that finally deals with a lot of the issues that we have grappled with over the years. And I want to thank all those who have stayed at the table, have had the patience to work with us. Again, we've never done this before. Other cities in California are grappling this well. I think what we have here is a good ordinance. We have nowhere close to the 800 clinics to 1,000 that we had at one point. We've brought that number down to more like 140. I think that makes sense for the city of Los Angeles. I hope you'll support this ordinance today.
Thank you, Ms. Hahn. Mr. Koretz.
I understand that we have 3 cleanup amendments. I wonder if the city attorney could walk us through those. And also, I believe I need to call item 37 special with an amendment on the number of days for compliance.
Number 37.
Oh, 37A.
That's a special meeting. That's a special meeting. That's another matter.
Just for clarification, item 25 should be held on the desk. This is the last item in the regular meeting. After council goes into the special meeting, there are 2 items, 37 and 38, regarding council giving direction to our office to draft the ordinance amending the medical marijuana matter in a certain way. And then in the special meeting, miraculously, we will have that ordinance drafted in that way. But council would have to first recess this meeting, call the roll in the special meeting, take up those matters in the special meeting, adjourn that meeting, and then go into the second special meeting, call the roll, act on the ordinance, and then adjourn that, and then reconvene the regular meeting after that.
Okay, I'm glad you understand that, Mr. City Attorney. Mr. Weezer? You want another clarification?
After that clarification, let me say I'll reserve my comment right now until we get a better clarification on what we're doing.
Figure out which one we're on.
If you want me to clarify my clarification, council should leave this item on the desk in the regular meeting, recess the regular meeting, call the roll of the special meeting that has items 36 through 39 on them, handle those matters, adjourn that meeting, then call the roll of the second special meeting, which has the actual ordinance, the medical marijuana ordinance. Council should act on that, and then adjourn that meeting, and then reconvene this meeting after that. And that's my last clarification.
All right, so let's do it. Mr. Clerk? Mr. Clerk, let's proceed as directed by the City Attorney.
Recess.
Very good, sir. We will recess the meeting, call the roll in the first special meeting. That being said, Alarcon, Cardenas, Hahn, Weezer, Koretz, Krikourian, Labange, Parks, Perry, Reyes, Rosendahl, Smith, Wesson, Zine, Garcetti. 11 members present and a quorum, Mr. President.
Very well. And the item that's up for discussion? And we have no cards on number 37. It's 5 minutes to 1. It's 5 minutes to 1, Mr. Clerk. Ms. Hahn, question?
Is receive and file. No? Under my notes, it says 37 needs to be receive and file because it's already addressed in the city attorney's ordinance under 25.
Mr. Koretz?
Oh.
I believe we're trying to replace 37 with 37A.
Oh, okay.
So I guess you're right, 37 would be a receive and file, 37A would be what we passed.
All right. Mr. Clerk advised us to go to 36. So let's go to 36, colleagues. We have a card on number 36. We have 2 cards on number 36.
The attorney asked for more days, so we might come
Wayne Spindler. Number 36.
Mr. President, 36 through 38 are items for which public hearings have not been held. 10 votes are required for consideration.
36. Mr. Spindler.
All right. Appreciate so in the first special meeting, there'll be 2 special meetings. So basically, it's about the marijuana ordinance, a very complicated situation. All right, this is on the taxes? All right. Taxing the marijuana? All right, this is an outright taxes, okay. All right, then I'll defer on this one. All right, thank you.
Arnold Sachs, number 36.
First, I'd like to give this document to Sergeant Arms for the city attorney's benefit. I'm concerned a little bit about this. These are some public comment cards that have been accrued in Transportation Committee hearings. This is for the Yellow Cab Co-op from 9/30/09. 2 of them are from the Yellow Cab Co-op. Here's another one from 9/30/09, Yellow Cab Co-op. There's one from the United Checker Cab Co-op. There's one from the 23rd for the Yellow Cab and United Checker Cab. My concerns are that in listing these companies, you have co-ops listed as ownership doing DBAs, but the co-ops aren't listed on the cabs. Now, I believe the DOT has an ordinance requiring the name of the company to be on the side of the cab. That doesn't occur here. Then you have a cab company that's listed, with the side of the cab says it's a co-op. So that's not the same. Then you have another company that I believe filed for bankruptcy that's listed as the owner of one of the cab companies that's got a franchise. So just what kind of homework has been done here? The document I gave for the city attorney is a request for a taxi meter rate increase by the Administrative Services Co-op, doing business as Yellow Cab Company, United Checker Cab, and Fiesta Taxi. This is dated November 9, 2006, to the Los Angeles County Tax Collector. That's a document the city attorney's got. So if they're not even listed here either, because, so what's the what? Just looking for ownership here. You know, you passed it when the food.
Thank you, Mr. Sachs. Your time is
I'm
up.
sorry.
Mr. Rosendahl.
And colleagues, as you know, this came before us, this item 36, with the city attorney's report with the draft ordinance to grant a 5-year renewal. The terms and conditions of this renewal are the same, except for the requirement of 80% of their fleets to be comprised of fuel-efficient vehicles. It's a great agreement that we worked out through several public hearings here. Everybody got involved in it. And as you will recall, we approved it on the council on October the 27th. So what will happen with this, it goes into effect. Along with the 80% greening requirement, this 5-year renewal also provides the department with $2.5 million federal grant for the purchase of additional disabled access taxi vehicles. The city's greening plan will be discussed before the Taxi Commission, and they're going to have a strategy in there of how they get to that 80% over the 5-year period. It's a great new ordinance, and I obviously ask for your unanimous support.
Mr. Krikorian.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to comment briefly that this policy has been a challenging one to develop over the course of the last few months. There's been a tremendous amount of public input, and I want to congratulate Chairman Rosendahl on really doing an outstanding job of trying to draw as much public input as possible from all sides of this question. And he's been very, very deliberative. The committee, the entire T committee, has been very deliberative on this and has heard input from all parts of this question extensively. And what we have as a result is a policy that will result in an improvement to our environment, more reliable taxi service that services all parts of our city, and we hope improved conditions for the drivers as well. So I think it really should be a win-win-win, and I ask for your aye vote.
Very well. That matters before us, colleagues. Open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
Forthwith.
Mr. President, that will go over for a second reading.
We only have 11. We need 12 for approval today. So we'll have a second reading. Next item, Mr. Clerk.
Mr. President, that brings us to item number 37. Please be advised that there is an amending motion that has been circulated.
It has been or hasn't? It has been circulated? Okay. 37. I see a card on 38. Arnold Sachs. Nothing on 37. So 37's up. Mr. Koretz, 37.
Yeah, this is a minor tweak, so we're asking to receive and file 37 and instead to substitute this motion, which takes the compliance deadline from the original 180 days to the 270 that it was originally on, 37, finally to 360, which everyone thinks is the more practical deadline suggested by the city attorney.
Thank you. The matters before us, colleagues. Open the roll.
Mr. President, before we vote, for clarification, 37 will be amended by 37A, which has been distributed.
Will we vote on 37 separate?
No, you can vote on the entire package.
All right. So we open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
Noes.
Next item, please.
That brings us to item 38, called special for cards.
Number 38, Arnold Sachs. Mr. Sachs.
I'm just reading. Again, what I'd really like to know, well, based on my previous commentary, it really doesn't make any sense. You disavow any knowledge of any facts that are given to you, so just go ahead and vote.
Thank you. No one to speak on this matter? Open the roll. Oh, Mr. Weezer.
I have a request to speak on that.
This matter? Mr. Weezer?
Thank you very much. 38, I just wanted to ask a question. How does this coincide with 25? Whoever put this motion forward and the city attorney.
We have the city attorney come forward on this matter?
This is the more streamlined version. More streamlined 25, 37, 38. The notes are more succinct.
Good afternoon, council members. David Michelson with the Office of the City Attorney. I believe 38 focuses on the amount of time available under the ordinance for compliance. It'll move it from 180 days from the effective date. I'm getting a head-shaking no from my colleague up there.
Mayor Kamara, one ordinance today, there's confusion, not even, our city attorney that's involved with this each and every day. I just want to slow this down a bit and figure out exactly what we're voting on. Nobody seems to know what we're voting on, number 38. So if somebody could just clarify what we're voting on.
25 is the city attorney's report back of the amendments to the ordinance. It includes
Okay.
different
Thank you.
discussed previously.
Item 38 concerns a single sentence in the ordinance that our office recommended to be clarified. It's in the enforcement section of the ordinance, and it would clarify the ordinance to make clear that members engaged in collective management are responsible for compliance under the ordinance, but it removes the word sole and a few other words, which created some confusion apparently, and some folks have argued the way it's currently written potentially could absolve others not involved with management from their obligations to comply with state and local laws. So it's actually a very simple change to one sentence in the ordinance. It still continues, even with this change, to make clear that members of a collective are responsible for compliance. But it removes a handful of words, including the word sole, to also make very clear that others are still responsible for complying with state and local laws with respect to their conduct in regards to any of these collectives.
So how does this comply with number 25?
25.
Is it the same thing? Do we deal with the same issue or not? Is it speaking with the same item or not?
Here we go. Here comes 25. Bear with me 1 second. Thank you, Colleen.
So it doesn't speak to the same item, does it? I mean,
Yes.
it does.
Yeah.
Hang on 1 second.
Yeah, it's part of 25. It's 25 if we're doing all these three
Okay. Well, folks, if we have a motion being put forward to us and
Well, we're on item 38 right now, and 38 is very clear. Ultimately, you've got 3 amendments before you, which will be very clearly discussed in just a few minutes when we get to the special agenda. Those 3 items included the one I just mentioned, and 2 additional items, one that one of your colleagues mentioned a minute ago, extending the 180 days to a total of 360 days from the effective date for compliance. And the third one, last but not least, concerns changes in one of the prerequisites for a pre-ICO collective to move forward in the process. That prerequisite dealt with the requirement in the existing ordinance that you have the same ownership and same management And there's that change with respect to that third item.
Okay, but 38 does not conflict in any way with 25 or any other item?
No, it's my understanding they're absolutely consistent. That's correct.
Thank you, Mr. Weezer. Ms. Hahn?
Yeah, I just want to also clarify what I believe we're doing on 25 is we're doing three things, which are a result of 38 and 37.
Combined.
Okay,
That's correct, Councilmember.
we're extending the time by 180 days.
Right.
We're having a technical change, taking out that word "sole," to ensure that all the workers in these collectives must comply with state and local laws.
Correct.
And then we're requiring that at least one owner be the same, or an officer of a nonprofit was the original owner. So we're doing three things on 25, and 37 and 38 are a part of what we're doing.
Correct.
So when we vote now on 25, three of those things are going to be are going to clean up this ordinance. 180 days. We're making sure that all the workers in these collectives comply with state and local laws, and we're requiring at least one owner to be the same, or if they become a nonprofit, that one of the original owners is now an officer of the board of the nonprofit. Those are three things we're doing today.
That's absolutely right. 25 is not before you, but once it does get before you, which will be relatively soon, all three will be before your honorable council for a vote. But these prior items, 38 and...
have to do with 25.
Exactly, are components of of all three, which will be before you when we get to 25.
Right.
I understand the buttons are not working. So, Mr. Koretz, then Mr. Krikorian.
I would just point out that we're starting to lose members, so if we could do this expeditiously, otherwise we won't be able to vote on the whole ordinance.
We have 11 members at this moment. Mr. Krikorian?
I'll pass.
Anyone else to speak? I understand the buttons are not working. Okay, this matter is before us, colleagues. Seeing no further questions, open the roll. Mr. Parks, are you pushing your button?
Somewhere.
Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
8 ayes, 3 noes.
Okay. Next item, please.
Mr. President, that brings us to item 39. Item 39 is an item scheduled for closed session.
Mr. Parks, 39.
Handle that in open session. It's a settlement, and I think we have gotten the best deal that we can. A citizen stepped into a hole around a tree, and the amount settled is less than the hard medicals.
Very well. Mr. Clerk.
Item 39, there is a recommendation for settlement in the amount of $147,500 in the case entitled Lawrence Lohman versus City of Los Angeles.
Very well. See no one on the queue, no one wish to speak. Open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
Next item, please.
Mr. President, at this point in time, would you like to adjourn the first special meeting and convene the second special meeting?
Absolutely. That would be a way to go. Call the roll.
Alarcon, Cardenas, Hahn, Weezer, Koretz, Krikorian, Labange, Parks, Perry, Reyes, Rosendahl, Smith, Wesson, Zine, Garcetti, 11 members, present and a quorum, Mr. President.
Very well. Special item, please.
Item 40 is an item for which a public hearing has not been held. 10 votes are required for consideration.
The item is number 40. We have some cards on number 40. Arnold Sachs. Arnold Sachs, number 40.
Can I suggest 1 minute?
Mr. City Attorney.
Mr. President, I would suggest 1 minute each on this item.
Okay, let's do 1 minute on these matters since we've discussed them numerous times. Mr. Sachs, go ahead, 1 minute, sir.
Since when is it the city's attorney's purview to limit the discussion on item for the city council?
Yeah, 1 minute, Mr. Sachs.
I understand that, Mr. President. My question is since when is the city attorney's purview to limit the discussion time among the city council? Who is making policy here?
Well, he's requested, I'm making the decision. 1 minute, Mr. Sachs. Your time is running.
I understand that. But again, it's not his purview to make those kind of requests.
I'm making the call, Mr. Sachs.
So then you should have made the call then, sir, not the city attorney. It's absolutely outrageous. Again.
Yeah, 24 seconds left.
How much time left now, Mr. City Attorney? Because
Mr. President, he still hasn't addressed this item.
I've addressed, well, there's nothing to address. You're running the meeting.
All right, Mr. Sachs, thank you. Don Duncan? Mr. Duncan, you have 1 minute, sir. I know you can speak and run fast.
Thank you, council members. My comments are essentially the same as my comments on 25, so I'll let that alone now.
Mr. Duncan, thank you very much. Nevin Suis? Nevin, same as he said before. Richard Eastman, speak as fast as a roller coaster. There you go.
Distinguished City Council of Los Angeles, Richard Eastman, one of the proponents of Proposition 215 and SB 420. I want to thank you for all the years of supporting safe access for people with AIDS and cancer and glaucoma here in Los Angeles. But I'm horrified that you want to tax my medicine. We just defeated Proposition 19, Mr. Perone and I, and we're going to defeat any taxation of marijuana as a medicine. I am proposing that you rethink the taxation of marijuana as a medicine, because
the tax is not on this agenda item.
We do not support taxation of marijuana as a medicine.
All right.
So I support your issue today to support the patients.
It's the wrong item, sir.
But I do not support taxation of marijuana.
Okay, it's not the right item, sir. That's not the right item, sir. Thank you. All right, you're done. Thank you. Next speaker is Barry Kramer. Please focus on the item, Mr. Kramer.
I will focus on the item. I'm just going to re-say what I said earlier. I hope that the three holdouts here will vote with compassion for the citizens here in Los Angeles, and I also hope that our communities will be protected by what you're doing today. I do think that they will be. Just a real quick aside, it's the middle of November, and you really could save some money on the air conditioning in here. It is freezing. It's been about 3 hours that we've been waiting to talk. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. That completes public comment for today. All right, colleagues, to speak on this matter. I know the buttons aren't working, so anyone wish to speak on the matter? Seeing none? Mr. Weezer.
Yeah. And again, can the city attorney explain to us exactly what we're voting on here today? Can anybody stand up and tell me?
Mr. City Attorney?
I stood up and told you.
Mr. Michelson's taking the seat again.
We have a lot of language in here that, it's not really clear exactly what we're voting on, so I just wanted to ask our city attorney exactly what we're voting on today.
Thank you, Councilman. David Michelson, Office of the City Attorney. You are voting presently on 3 amendments to the city's ordinance regarding medical marijuana collectives. The first of the 3 concerns extending the deadline for compliance from 180 days from the effective date of the ordinance, which was this past June, to 360 days from the effective date of the ordinance. The way the current...
Hold on. That's 25, I believe. 40, we're talking about...
Do you want to...
If I could clarify?
Yeah.
Item 25 is really just the skeletal version of item 40. Item 40 was put on the agenda for a more full agenda description. So if after council acts on item 40, then when council goes back into the regular meeting, the recommended action would be to receive and file item 25.
Okay.
So item 40 is where the action is going to take place, in a sense.
So this is really the item, and 25, if 40 passes, we could just note and file 25.
That's correct.
Okay, so
Yes,
that's
Councilman.
procedurally what we're doing here, and that's, I
Absolutely.
just want to correct that.
That's correct.
So for form and substance, for the real substance is here right now under 40, correct?
That's right.
Gotcha. Thank you.
So currently, the ordinance has... You're good.
Mr. Michelson, I think we all understand.
Excellent.
No other questions, colleagues? Open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
8 ayes, 3 no.
Very well.
I will go over for a second reading next week, sir. Would council wish to adjourn the special meeting and return to the regular?
Yes, please.
Very Very good. That takes us back to item number 25.
Number 25, Mr. Koretz.
Move we note and file 25.
On item number 25, recommendation is for note and file without opposition. Open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
Next item, please.
Mr. President, council has motions for posting and referral.
I think Mr. Parks has a reconsideration. No, Mr. Parks? Okay. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Posted and referred?
The desk is clear.
Announcements, colleagues? Any announcements? Seeing none, adjourning motions, colleagues. Mr. Garcetti, adjourning motions. Mr. Garcetti. Please stand in the audience. Please stand in the chambers for adjourning motions.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Colleagues, we'll do a more formal adjourning motion on Ms. Hahn. Let's do adjourning motions real quick. We'll do more formal motion, but I was informed and got on the phone and spoke with him that Arnie Berghoff's mother passed away of a heart attack at 94 years old, Sylvia Berghoff. We'll get the details. Arnie Berghoff's mother, Sylvia Berghoff, passed away of a heart attack at 94 years old. She was able to, in the last week, see her grandson get married, and she went as peacefully as one can, or as quickly as one can, I suppose, given the circumstances. But we'll get her biographical information. I know all members will want to join me in adjourning, but our thoughts are with Arnie and the entire family today.
Thank you, Mr. Garcetti. Adjourning motions, colleagues? Seeing none, Mr. Clerk, please call the roll. This concludes this meeting of the Los Angeles City Council. We'll return on Friday. Have a good afternoon.